Signed the Civil Rights Bill and told me I was free, and I believe. Bush bombed the towers, then said he was protecting me, and I believe. Voluntarily joined his army to fight for freedom overseas, and I believe. We've been bamboozled, run amok, mentally locked down with mind cuffs, waiting on a cracker to crack the clouds and come lift me up. Patiently I await while I'm stuck, sinking fast in deceitful quicksand, hit with African images of Tarzan, come out of the madman, giant Ugandan, lesbian images of Suge and Seeley, cracker images as Nefertiti, in order to justify genocide, first dehumanized, then destroyed.
And without further ado, I'd like to present to some and introduce to others a tireless fighter in the interest of black people, in the interest of black justice, the irritated GENIE Southeast.
Belittle and berate black women as gold digging holes so that I place no value in them. So mentally distraught, I set my sights on a democratic cracker to grant me my human rights. My savior is my enslaver, therefore my enslaver I refuse to fight. American political...
Our God commands growth and prosperity to African people. Peace to all God's beings, death to all enemies. How you doing, brothers and sisters? Glad you can make it out. You know, we got here today, we were ready to go. We thought we was ready to go, but somebody said they don't want you to get this message today. But that's all right, we found a way to get it done, and we're going to do the best we can to tackle a real tough topic here. You know that Christianity, racism, white supremacy, that's a tough topic. Y'all know that, right? All right, thank you for coming out for the tough stuff. Want to start right here. I want to tell a quick story, brothers and sisters, something near and dear to our heart. We have to do this. We wish we didn't, but we do. This is a true story. How many people in here have seen the movie Sankofa? Done by Brother Holly Karima, has his own store on Georgia Avenue right across the street from Howard University. And they actually made that movie some years ago, a movie about slavery, excellent movie. If you haven't seen it, you want to go see it. And I was talking to a brother in Sankofa, and he said, after they made the movie, when they first made the movie, they started making a lot of money, people were buying, and then it stopped just like that. And at first, you know, because they got Negroes like 2 blocks down, just to give you an example of how bad Negroes can be in terms of stealing from black people. They 2 blocks from the store, the House of Kemet, we call it the House of Bootleg. Right. And instead of walking 2 blocks, they ain't got to pay shipping. To ask the brother to get a good deal, they go and steal from the brother, their own brother, 2 blocks down. But we want to really show you how insidious this bootlegging is. And this is a true story. I was talking to the brother, he said, after some years, we found out that who was really killing us was in New York. A white so-called Jew and an Arab started their own company, a warehouse, bootlegging Sankofa. Wow. So I said, hold on. I said, wait a minute, bro. Wait. I said, wait a minute. You're not going to tell me a small hat on his way with a missile to murder some Palestinian children and a Palestinian with a suicide bomb on his way to try to liberate and fight for his people got a phone call with each other and decided they was going to meet on some hill, some halfway between the desert and the cave or something, because they want to steal. I said, that's not possible. I mean, the Jew and the hat and the Arab. And then I thought about it, I said, you know, that makes a lot of sense. Nobody who's oppressing black people want us to wake up. Nobody who's oppressing black people. So you say, well, why would they sell the product? That's getting the information out. No, the bootlegger don't get the information out. The reason he can sell the product is because the information's already getting out. What the hat said and the Arab said is, you know what? We don't want anybody getting this information. So this is what we're going to do. We can't stop this one. But if we take the profits from it, there'll never be a second one. As a consequence, Brother Holly Karima has never done anything on the magnitude of Sankofa. Why? Because all his hard-earned work is going into the pockets of the small hat and the Arab. We say that to say, we know that the brothers that are bootlegging black people across the country, they're not as insidious as this Arab and the small hat. They're not sitting around thinking, you know, I'm going to destroy the black race in that way. But in essence, they're doing the exact same thing. They're ensuring that you won't have those old days we used to go see Dr. John Henry Clark, Yosef Ben Yachanan. You go to see Asa Hilliard, peace be upon him, all at the same time. Because there's no incentive for young people to get involved in a movement where they know before they start that anything they do will be stolen. And so I want to say to brothers and sisters, we got to stop supporting the thieves and the criminals in our community. We ain't no different than the hip-hoppers if we don't say, look, right is right, wrong is wrong, let's stop the stealing. Right. So as a consequence, throughout the course of this election, you're going to see this come up here. We want you to give us a call if you see the people bootlegging, and please, brothers and sisters, stop supporting the bootlegging because it's killing the movement. Can't talk about Christianity. It's Christianity, racism, white supremacy. How are we going to talk about religion And I give a special shout out and thank you to, this is Asher Crazy and Sister Mary Crazy. Let's show them some love, brothers. The master teacher. I say, in my estimation, my personal opinion, this black man has done the absolute best job in giving black people our story in such a way that a 5-year-old and a 55-year-old can understand it just as well. The history of African people taking us back to ourselves. So I want to encourage people. He has a series called Christianity, the Stolen Religion from Africa, parts 1 and 2. This is the website you can go to purchase, and this is the phone number you can go to get it. And I just want to say that this is the type of man, what he's done for us, brothers and sisters, he won't be properly appreciated until long after he's gone, but at least you can do it, particularly for those who are really serious about religion and interested in understanding what's going on. Call that brother up and get these products. You'll be happy you got them. Am I telling the truth? Yes, all right. Well, you know, I don't do no big, long introductions. We get right on into this thing. We're going to talk about religion and spirituality. We African people, we might as well go ahead and start with ourselves. Let's talk about our story. Before we had any other people that we knew, any other people on this planet, African people, black people, we had our own story. Right. And this is one of our ancient stories that comes out of the Nile Valley. We called it Kemet, land of the blacks. Europeans now changed and call it Egypt. It was the story of Asar, Aset, and Haru, the first mother and father, the first trinity. And basically, the first father was Asar. The Greeks would later call him Osiris. And the first mother was the goddess Aset. That was his wife. And they were married, but they had never consummated the marriage, if you will. And so she had never gotten pregnant. And she was a virgin. And Asar had an evil brother named Set, who was jealous of Asar. So he invited Asar to a meeting, and he got some conspirators together, and he killed him. He cut him into 14 pieces and spread his body throughout the Nile. And of course, the goddess Aset, finding that her husband had been murdered, went throughout the land and put pieces of his body back together. Now, this is a story. I don't want you to actually think some black people went around cutting each other up, okay? Right. It's a story designed to talk about hope and the spirit of our people. Because she put his body together, she found all the parts except for his penis. And then later that will become worship. As when you go downtown and you see the Washington Monument, you're actually looking at a black man's penis. Right. Now, I'm not lying to you, I'm not being vulgar, but Asar resurrected. Because see, the hope was gone when his physical body was gone. Right. But his wife, in putting his body back together, his spirit returned. And his spirit impregnated her. And so she became pregnant with a child. Now, it's called Immaculate Conception because there was no physical contact. It was all spiritual. It's a story designed to teach a lesson. Right. So she becomes pregnant with the baby Haru. And Set finds out that the goddess of Set is pregnant. And he tries to hunt the baby down, but she saves the baby. He grows up. He finds out what happened to his father. He finds out that his evil uncle Set is ruling the land. There was once a balanced and benevolent kingdom and prosperous kingdom under his father Asar. And now it's turmoil and everything is upside down now under the rulership of Set. And so he goes to war and defeats his evil uncle Set, returns the kingdom to balance. And he becomes what we call our hero, our savior, Haru. One who comes in a time of misery, one who comes when it appears that all hope is lost. And Haru didn't just represent the story of this God that we worship, a deity. It represented the ability in all of us to overcome our obstacles, to get up when we're down, to see that there's always a tomorrow. And our ancestors showed Haru and represented him as a falcon. Why a falcon? Because our ancestors is a metaphor. Every evening the sun goes down, and that represents despair and hopelessness. But our ancestors said every morning, you don't got to worry about it. It's like clockwork. You turn to the east, and Ra's gonna rise. And when we saw the sun rise, that represents new hope and new life. And we saw the falcon fly high in the sky, and our ancestors said, that falcon, that's Haru. That's the hope that we had. Right. Isn't that a beautiful story? Let's give our ancestors a hand, because these are the people that we are. That's beautiful. That means even though things don't look that good for black people right now, we still have hope. That's our story. So now we got to get into, because we came here to talk about Christianity. So don't tell me about all this stuff. We going to get there. Take your time now. Take your time. Don't move too fast now. I want to make a point. I want to make it very clearly. Contrary to popular belief, brothers and sisters, God don't come and give people religion. That's not how it works. Religion and spirituality are the resting place for people's culture.
Come on, bro.
Let me say it again. Religion and spirituality are a resting place for people's culture. Culture, the way people treat one another, the way we relate to one another, the foods we eat, the things that we find sacred, our celebrations. Eventually, people look around their surroundings and determine what they find to be sacred. And then those things, they elevate to a godlike status, and they become their beliefs, their religion, their spirituality. Now, we look at our story, and we see that in our Trinity, there was a God, a goddess, and a child, right? So then we got to say that comes from the culture, because in Africa, the black man and woman viewed one another as complementary partners in the journey of life. That was the important thing. And the idea of sexual contact, the only thing we had was the idea that sex was, it was viewed by black people as an enjoyable means of procreation and communication between a consenting man and consenting woman. And so, the foundation of black civilization, where did we spend our time, was in nurturing the relationship between men and women, between father and daughter, father and mother, between mother and son. These relationships were critical because these are how we built the pyramids. These are how we built great civilizations. These were the things we found most important to us. And so when the Europeans came into Kemet, what they call Egypt today, they saw 40-foot colossals of men and women in love. This is Amenhotep III and Queen T. Everywhere you see it, she's got her hand on his knee. And they're the same size. And the Europeans said, what is this? They've never seen anything like this. When they came in there, we saw that on every temple, you see gods and you see goddesses, a balance. And so that got translated into our religion. That's why you have a god and a goddess. You understand where we at, right?
Yes, sir.
Well, let's talk about the European. I want to make a point now. When our ancestors first saw the European and their behavior, our ancestors had no words or no description, no understanding, because we had a concept of evil. Remember Seth? Seth was evil. I mean, he killed his brother, he cut him up, he was jealous.
Right.
But in all of his wickedness and evil, he ain't never think about molesting no little boy. I mean, even in our concept of evil, he didn't think about laying with another man.
Right.
What I'm trying to say is that when we saw Europeans, our ancestors had nothing in their mind to say what this thing is that we're looking at that will behave like this.
Right.
In fact, our ancestors would draw Europeans, what we call Europeans today. And they would draw them and they would call them the spiritless people. They said they don't have spirits and souls. This is the message that our ancestors left for us. They would draw them with all kinds of tattoos. They said they write on their bodies as if their temples don't mean anything. Right. And I want you to understand, because I want you to, sometimes we hear these stories and we can't relate to them. But how many people remember the first time you saw the rock band Kiss?
Yeah, I remember.
Or the heavy metal? Y'all remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Remember you were young and you kind of looked at them and said, you know, what? Or like you look at Manson here, Marilyn Manson, and you look at it, and you know, you just don't know what, that's what our ancestors went through. The best thing I can come up with, I went and saw this movie. It was called 30 Days, 30 Nights. How many people saw the movie?
I saw it.
It's an old vampire movie, right? And it was a good, I thought it was a pretty good movie. You know, you got white folks running around, and the white vampires trying to kill the white folks, and the white folks trying to kill the white vampires, and I can't figure out who the good guys are. I don't know who to root for. I'm rooting for both sides. And so they got, it was a funny, I said, boy, this really puts it where it is. There was one part of the movie I really liked. There's a mean Nordic kind of white boy. You know, he had blood dripping all off his mouth. That's a mean vampire. I said, that's a mean white boy there. And the white female, the vampires had caught her, and they had her on the ground, right? And they was about to kill her, so she said, God, Jesus, please, God, you gotta help me, The white boy walked up smooth, man. He walked up to her, he leaned over to her, he said, shh, no God. I said, that's that white boy. That's him. And don't ask me for no fancy explanation. I don't know, it just felt like that's that white boy. That's what our ancestors saw. When they saw the white boy. And they looked at how he acted, they just said, no God. That's it right there. But now, we want to understand, what are the behavior that we're talking about? Let's talk real briefly about some of the history of the European. We got to understand what it is our ancestors were looking at. In the caves and hills of Europe, the Europeans that had no concept of right or wrong, no concept of good nor evil, no concept of laughter. He was in a kill or be killed environment. In order for him to survive, he didn't have vegetables or anything of that nature. He had to kill something to survive. So he would go out and kill that wild Caucasus Mountain rabbit and bite right into it right then, and the blood would come out. He didn't have fire to cook it. And then that blood became sacred to him. Killing became sacred because that meant he could live another day. Right. And the only enjoyment he would get out of life is a kill or sexual contact with his female. Now this is a very interesting thing because it was a highly competitive environment because there were scarce resources. So the white male would be out there killing this wild Mongolian tur, biting into it, ready to take it back to his family. He hadn't eaten, and his family hadn't eaten for 3 weeks. But there's another clan, and they're bigger than his clan. More of them than his clan. They ain't eaten in 2 months. Right. So when they see him, not only will they kill him, to take his food from him, but they might kill him and take him back his food. It got so bad in Europe that it became a frightening thing to become older. Because the older you got, the more tender morsels them legs start looking. Because they had a part of their culture was cannibalism. Right. We said the only thing that they could enjoy, look forward to, was a kill, which meant blood and death, and sexual contact. But the white female presented a problem for him. He enjoyed the sexual contact, but he started noticing. About 9 months after that, she started producing another mouth that he couldn't feed. Right. So he became bitter and angry because he said, you know, I can't even feed us hardly now you're going to do this to me. Sex became like a trick to him. So he became bitter with her, and so she developed a multitude of different ways to please him sexually so that she wouldn't have a child, but she could still be fed by this male and he wouldn't kill her. Well, that worked for a while, but he began to look for alternative means for enjoyment. So he started recognizing, wow, if I have sexual contact with a young girl prior to her puberty, I can do this as much as I want to, and it won't produce any mouths I won't feed. As a consequence, a daily regimen, I want you to understand, this wasn't something that happened from time to time. Daily life in the Caucasus Mountain, little girls, their job was to be the sexual toilet for the males. Right. Brothers, uncles, fathers, whoever. That was just what they did. Every day, all day. He also went out and experimented with other males and said, hey, this won't produce life either. Then he went out and experimented with animals and said, whoa, I really like this. Now, don't ask me why. I ain't no European. I'm just recording it. I'm the messenger documenting the history. Don't ask me too many whys because you get to a place where I can tell you I don't know. But this is where our discussion of religion starts. And I know you say it's a strange place, but if we're talking about religion, we say religion and spirituality are the resting place for culture. For whatever reason, the European male, when he got to the little boy, I want you to listen to what I'm saying very carefully. That became his idea of being in love, a sexual contact with a little boy. Listen to what I'm saying to you. I want you to understand what I'm saying to you. In Africa, the ancient love story of Africa was between man and woman. Right. That was the only concept we had of being in love, per se. Listen, in Europe, prior to coming into Africa and looking at what African people were doing, there was no concept of a man and woman being in love. There are no statues. There was none. Every concept of being in love was a grown male with a little boy. Here we see Zeus. This is their supreme god. The story of Zeus is that Zeus fell in love with this little boy on earth named Ganymede, the most beautiful little boy on earth. That's their description. He descended as an eagle, kidnapped this little boy, took him to Mount Olympus, raped and sodomized him in order to make him his lover. That is the love story of ancient Greece. Okay? And you say, why am I saying this? This is very important for us to understand. This is their god. It is a reflection of their culture. Matter of fact, Plato tells us that they call it pederasty, which is sexual contact between a grown man and a little boy. He said, pederasty alone is capable of satisfying a man's highest and noblest aspirations. And the love between man and woman, when spoken of at all, is altogether inferior. It is a purely physical impulse whose sole object is the procreation of life. Y'all mad at me? No. I didn't make white folks like, don't look at me like that. I'm just saying, look, they're saying that the only concept that there really is of someone being in love, an emotional relationship, the only one that really exists is with a young male. And so we see this reflected in their artwork and in their entire culture. This is Zeus with Ganymede. This is one of the many depictions of their idea of love. Now, I'm going to show you why we worked so long. It took a while for us to get started. I know it was the white folks somewhere, the spirit of white folks saying, please, we don't want that kind of truth out here today. I'm going to show you a clip now, because I know sometimes we say these things and you think this is coming from us and it might not be history, it might be our interpretation, let's go hear it for ourselves. Everybody on board with that? All right. Y'all got your boots on, don't you? All right. Some come flowing down. That ain't me.
The lascivious behavior of the elite Greek male was mirrored in the antics of his gods. The all-powerful Zeus was a philandering husband whose sexual appetites ran the gamut from goddesses to mortal women to young boys. Romantic love between men and women was not the norm in classical Greece. Plato himself sang the praises of love between men in the Symposium. Male homosexual relationships often involved an older man with a younger boy, a practice known as pederasty.
Certain subcultures in Greece, particularly the elite subcultures, romanticized the relation between an adult male and a pubescent boy. It was a rite of passage in a sense. There were certain rules of...
The defeat of the sacred band of Thebes marked the end of the classical period in ancient Greece and the beginning of the Hellenistic. This dynamic era ushered in many changes in Greek culture, especially in the arena of sexuality. The female nude gradually replaced the male nude as the Greeks' ideal form of beauty. Erotic bonds between men and women strengthened, taking the place of male-male relationships. It seems the wise and learned Greeks had finally discovered the humanity of woman.
Did I tell you the truth?
Yes, sir.
I mean, did I lie to you? All right, they tell us about their culture. I'm going to tell you why this is important, brothers. I want you to understand. Europeans have a little bit over 2,000 years of trying to cultivate a relationship between men and women. Before that, they didn't even know that it existed. Right. In fact, they came into Africa, and when they saw men and women as couples, they were so angry. I just want you to imagine. This will make it simple. Imagine if all of us in this room went somewhere. They said they wanted to come take a look at a place, and we went to look in there, and everywhere we saw men sodomizing boys on the wall. Can you imagine we started ripping stuff off the walls and kicking the stuff? Well, when the European came into Africa and saw the black man and the black woman together, he started breaking statues. He said, ain't no man, what is going on here with men and women? We are actually following the people who didn't know until they came to us even that a man and woman could have a relationship. Right. So we got to start talking about culture. Let's start talking about the history. We're talking about how does Christianity how do our people go from worshiping the black god and goddess concept to where we are today? Let's talk about this. The Greeks come down in 332 BC into Africa, ancient Kemet. This is Alexander the Greek here. And then a family known as the Ptolemies takes over. Now this is very interesting because typical like white folks do. They come in, they want to run everything, right? So Ptolemy looked at the worship of the god Asar and the worship of Haru and said, no, I want y'all to worship me now. So our ancestors, of course our ancestors knew that he wasn't God, but I mean, you have an option. You either make these statues of Ptolemy or you get your head cut off. So what you gonna do? So we began to make these statues, and Ptolemy's god name was called Serapis. You know, like, if I say Pretty Boy had a good fight this weekend, you say, oh, okay, Floyd Mayweather fought. When Pretty Boy, that's just his nickname. Well, the god name for Ptolemy became Serapis. So this was the new god that the Europeans, the Greeks, were trying to introduce to our people. And so the Europeans after the Greeks would come in with the Romans. And they would take over Africa, and they said, we like this concept of this Serapis. This white god worship, we like this. And so we're going to talk about a couple of these conferences they had, just a little bit, to understand the formulation of the religion that we call today Christianity. We talk about the individual that Christians talk about being the one who started the modern Christian era. The modern religion institution today we know as Christianity. His name was Constantine. He was a white nationalist. He was a very sophisticated European for his time. Right. He called the meeting, and he had two major issues that we want to talk about. It's called the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD. One thing he said is that we want everybody in Europe, because Europeans were constantly fighting. He said we got to stop white folk from fighting and come together. Right. So one, everybody in Europe, we're going to all agree Serapis is God. And two, you the Africans in Africa, you're going to have to believe Serapis is God too. And the second part was there was a brother in Africa, North Africa, who had the support of the people, who was still talking about spirituality being related from the person having a direct relationship with God. His name was Arius, and the people believed in his worship. And Constantine called a meeting and said, look, Arius, you're going to have to change what you're doing and come our direction. Right. So you know the brother, what he said, right? He told him what he could do with his religion, because he said, I know what you're really trying to do. You want us to worship you. That's not going to work. So he got up, he left the meeting and left and went back to Africa and said, we're not going to have it. Okay. Later, the Europeans would continue to have their meetings. This is the Council of Constantinople in 381 AD, held by Theodosius. The brother was giving them so much problems because the Europeans were starting to agree. You know what? We like this idea of Serapis as God. We can do that. Right. But the North Africans were like, no. We got our beliefs. We don't need your beliefs. And the beliefs of Arius were so strong that they said, we got to do something about this. We got to do something about Africa because we got to get them on board with this new religious system. His son Theodosius II, his sisters, I want you to pay close attention to this. This is the Council of Ephesus in 431 AD. You know, something is very interesting. You know, when you steal something, you got to be real careful, because when you take something, you get everything that comes with it. Right. Like, you steal a car, and it got a GPS tracking system. Well, if you don't give it a GPS tracking system, you will get caught. You didn't intend to get caught, but you stole the tracking system too. Well, when Europeans took the idea of religion from African people, they got Asar, Aset, and Harut. That's what it was. Now, the white males who were putting up Serapis as the white god, they didn't really pay much attention to the goddess Aset. But there was a problem. The white females started going into Africa now that the Greeks were ruling and the Romans, and she looked up. For the first time in her life, she realized that a woman could be respected. She saw women on temples right next to men, and she said, I didn't realize this. Understand, she heard about the goddess Aset, who was a virgin, who had saved herself, and that these people down here that built this great civilization actually believed that a woman could have a concept called chastity. She could save herself for a man. She could make a determination of who she wanted to have sexually. They ain't never heard of nothing like that. She didn't know, she did not have a concept of womanhood. She didn't even know, because in her land, all men had ever been in love with was males, little boys. She didn't know that a man, quote unquote, was supposed to be in love with a woman. So the white female fell so in love with you, black woman. I want you to understand. You became a god to her. She worshipped you. And the white boys wasn't paying no attention. By the time the white boy turned around, the majority of Europe was going around, because of the white female, worshiping the goddess Aset. They called her Isis. They literally either had a black goddess Isis, or sometimes they painted a white, but they're sitting up there worshiping that. And the white boy go, wait a minute, we got a little bit of a problem here. He looks up and says, I'm trying to promote the white god Serapis. Right. Well, how you gonna have a white god and a black goddess? That don't match. Right. So they spent over 100 years trying to clamp down the entire European worship of you as a god, black woman. Before they had their Christianity, before any of these things, they were going through Europe worshiping you. I'm gonna tell you, you can still see this happening now. As you look at the Pope, you see the Pope right here, right? When he goes out in public, you see him with the white Jesus and Mary, right? Right. But when you go to the Vatican, ain't no white Jesus and Mary in the Vatican. You look up who he's worshiping, and it's the Queen of Heaven. That's you. It's the King of Heaven. It's the Son of God. That's you. Jet black that they worship there. Right. I want you to understand what I'm saying. I know that this, because it's saying, I know for some people saying this is the craziest thing I've ever heard in my life. Right. I'm telling you, black woman, that the white female did not have a concept of womanhood and what being a woman was until she ran into you. Right. But now, we don't expect white folk to tell us everything now, so y'all gonna have to just trust me on some things.
The spring equinox, 200 AD. Roman worshippers march to honor the Holy Mother of God. She is a popular religious figure in the Roman Empire, a sacred goddess known as the Queen of Heaven and Star of the Sea. Her name is not Mary, it is Isis, and this cult is a significant rival to the religion of Jesus. An ancient Egyptian goddess, Isis was the wife of Osiris, king of the gods. She is depicted on tomb carvings and papyrus scrolls dating back to 2000 BCE. When Egypt became part of the Roman Empire in 30 BCE, the religion of Isis began to spread. Around 40 AD, the Roman Emperor Caligula built a temple to Isis in Rome. By 200 AD, the Isis religion has spread throughout the empire. She is worshipped with dazzling processions. The priests and priestesses of the Isis cult wear white linen as a sign of their purity and chastity.
The men of Rome hate the Isis cult because the women who follow Isis sometimes refrain from intercourse. They dedicate their chastity to Isis during certain times, and this is considered to be something of a bother to the men in their life.
Nonetheless, Isis is venerated by her followers as the Virgin Mother. The similarities between Isis in 200 AD and the Virgin Mary in the Catholic Church are stunning. Both are called Queen of Heaven, and both are called Holy Mother of God.
We might not like to admit it, but the iconography of showing Jesus with Mary as a child in arms is drawn directly from the Isis cult in ancient Egypt, where she is the loving mother of the god Horus.
By the year 500 AD, the worship of Isis is banned, and many of her temples are converted into Christian churches dedicated to the Virgin Mary. Isis worship offered a personal relationship with the goddess. Christianity offered a personal relationship with Jesus.
So in that sense, Isis and Jesus offer very similar packages to the average person in the Mediterranean world.
One scholar has said that people adhere to the Isis cult, but they are converted to the religion of Jesus.
That's some new and different information, isn't it? You start letting Europeans start talking, they start telling each other, you say, wait, what?
Right.
We think we got some information. Y'all like the PKV got, but let me tell you something. You can go in some of these back rooms the Europeans got, the stuff we would find out. I'm saying for you, sister, I want you to understand something, sister. You can't follow behind this European female. See, no, you gotta get back to yourself. When Dr. Khalid Muhammad said the black woman is the mother of civilization, queen of planet Earth, goddess of the universe, don't want just words. See, you started this whole thing. You gotta put some clothes back on, sister. You gotta stop marking up your body. You gotta remember, you're the one that sets the pace for the planet. Every woman on this planet wants to be you. Now it's time you gotta start wanting to be you. Take the blonde out your head. You gotta want to be you and start being the trendsetter instead of following behind people that you see they've been following you the whole time. I hope, did that feel good? Let's get a black woman a hand. Come on now, look, I know this is a lot. I know this is heavy, but now I just told you that before Europeans was worshiping anybody else, now the Europeans just told you. They running through Europe worshiping the black woman.
That's right.
That means you're special, sister. You got to act that way. You got to act that way. The world knows that you're special, but you got to know it. We go here, we're going to do this last council. It's called the Council of Chalcedon in 451 AD. And this one was basically the Europeans are finally trying to figure out this religious system that they want to make. The problem with it is that in Africa, it was all spiritual. You know, these ideas, Asar and Haru, these are ideas. The European is far more physical. We said he had to kill his meat, eat it right there. He needs something that he can touch.
Right.
So the idea of making it spiritual, he changed. He said, no, we're going to make it simple. Forget all these multiple gods. God is simple. God is Serapis, and God is Serapis on earth too. It's two gods, one of them in the sky and one of them on earth. Both of them white, both of them Serapis, and everybody believes him. Well, that worked for Europeans, but politically it worked for them for an even better reason. Because the object, politically, is that if they can take black people's direct tie to God away from us,
Right.
then we'll have to worship wherever the tie is. Now, if God is white and he walked the earth, then that means in order to get to God, we got to go through them. And they arrest the spirituality. And so they called this meeting here to establish that part. And so that's what we're trying to do. We're just going through a little bit of history. I know y'all saying this, what about the church? We're going to talk about the church. We're going to talk about all those things you want to talk about. But I want us to be informed when we talk about what we believe in. At least we should have some information, background, so we understand what we're talking about. So the Europeans called all these meetings. But the last little piece of this formulation of their religious system, one thing, we said that spirituality and religion are the resting place for culture. The European says we got to make our religious beliefs, our culture, match this religion. They had one problem. They had Serapis God. Now they got rid of Isis and called her Mary, Mary Mother of God, and Serapis the child. Well, the problem is their highest and noblest aspiration was to have sexual contact with a little boy. So they said, we got to now make our religious beliefs match our culture. So they said, okay, this is what we're going to do. The highest ranking figure in our church, the Roman Catholic Church, he's going to be the most spiritual individual. He cannot have any sexual contact with a woman. That's how we know he's spiritual. But he can have as many, rummage through the souls of as many little boys as he wants to. That's fine. Come on now, don't look at me with that twisted face. You know it and I know it. And they also said, wait a minute now. They said, we don't really believe a female should have anything to do with the spiritual story at all anyway. So we got Serapis God, Serapis his own son, and Mary Mother of God. We don't want that female there. They said, this is what we're going to do. They couldn't figure out what to do. They said, this is what we're going to do. We're going to make up this fancy feller named the Holy Ghost, and we're going to play them. Now it's going to be the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. No woman in sight. Let's let it all match ya. A homosexual trend. Hey, this is the truth. You can clap and you going to clap, but it's still ain't going to change nothing. I didn't do this. I'm going to tell you something, though, brothers and sisters. You say, man, what you saying? Christianity is homosexual? I'm going to tell you this. And this is the truth. It's something that we all know. But remember we said our ancestors looked at the European, and we didn't really, it's kind of like a taboo, some of the stuff he doing, you just kind of, you say there's no God, and you walk away. We've been looking at this right in front of our face since the inception, but we've been ignoring some things. I'm going to prove to you emphatically with things that you already know that you wouldn't admit, but you got to admit them today. We've been looking at a homosexual religion in every aspect. As a matter of fact, I'm going to say it this definitively. Since its inception, the primary institution that spread homosexuality throughout the world is the Christian church. I'm going to say it again. Since its inception, the primary institution that spreads homosexuality and pedophilia throughout this planet is the Christian church. I'm going to say it even better than that. There's no way that you can look at Christianity from no direction, no which way, up, under, none of that stuff, that it ain't gay. Let's start. Can we agree that anytime your most spiritual individual a man can't have sex with a woman, there's something gay about that? Can we agree that when that same man decides he got a delightful thing for little boys, something homosexual about that? Can we agree, since we know that the history says God got us an Immaculate Conceived Child, and they pulled it out to put another man up there, that's homosexual in this theology? Yes, sir. Come on, talk. Let's start biting now. This ain't a homosexual lecture. Don't worry, we talking about Christianity, but we got to talk about what it is. Let's look at the iconography. We said religion and spirituality are the resting place for culture, correct? Right. Yes, sir. Now, this is the Sistine Chapel. Some of y'all sitting there go, oh yeah, that's the Sistine Chapel. You're getting goosebumps all in your feet. You're like, he can't say nothing about the Sistine Chapel. Because they tell us that's God reaching out to Adam. Yeah. Well, you know a little bit of European culture now. Right. Wait a minute. Who's the philanthroping husband whose sexual appetites, see all these naked women up in, because that's God now, range from women to animals to men to little boys on earth. Who is that? Zeus. That's Zeus reaching out to who? Ganymede. Right there in front of our face. We looking at it. We know what we're looking at. But now we know what we're looking at. Ain't nothing, brothers and sisters, but Zeus and Ganymede. Look, I'll be more definitive than that. This is not me saying, this is not no interpretive thing. The picture, the primary picture we look at, that we call Jesus Christ, this is a fact. Michelangelo was commissioned to paint that picture. He used as their description, I used my homosexual uncle who was a prisoner. So the picture that we're looking at, I'm not saying my interpretation, by strict definition of history, that picture is homosexual. So you know y'all seen the cherubs and y'all wonder what these little fat children was doing, flying around with arrows, and they half children, half adult. You know you felt funny. I felt funny too. You didn't want to say nothing. You didn't want to get in no trouble. Now some of y'all, I see y'all fighting all. See, brother, you talking all this philosophical stuff. What about the word? Want the word? You want the word? Let's go out to the word. King James, right? Oh, I got my King James Bible, you can't move me, brother. I shall not be moved, all right? Well, look, you stand there if you want to. Because this guy's coming for you. In Europe, he was called Queen James. The Europeans were so embarrassed by him because they wasn't all a bunch of homosexuals, but he was just such a licentious homosexual. He would literally go around and have sex with little boys, right? And if he liked them, he would give them all kind of political positions. You are the Duke of this. You're the Earl of this. Right. So they became so distraught, they said, we need to remove this man from power. So he said, well, I'm going to go down there and set them straight. So he went, it'd be similar to going to a congressional hearing. He went to what they call the Privy Council with his official affirmation of his right to love men. He wanted to tell them, look, I'm going to tell you how it is. He says, I, King James, am neither a God nor an angel. See, Brother Drew would laugh and see. We done this before, and neither one of us can keep a straight face on this, but I'm going to try my best. But I'm a man like any other. Therefore, I act like a man, not this man, and confess to loving those dear to me more than other men. You may be sure that I love the Earl of Buckingham. Now, that's George Villiers. Now, he's an Earl. Now, you know what you got to do to get an Earl. None of y'all want to be no Earls or Dukes, all right? You got a Duke to be a Duke. Or anyone else. And more than any of you who are here assembled, I wish to speak in my own behalf and have it not thought to be a defect, for Jesus Christ did the same thing. And therefore, I cannot be blamed. He said, Christ had John and I have George. Now, wait a minute, slow down. Some of y'all insulted. He called Jesus. I didn't call Jesus nothing. I'm just reading King. I shouldn't even read it. I should let you read it yourself. You won't blame me now. Look, this is a little known fact, though. It's not that important for it, but I think I should just mention it. In the religious hierarchy of the Europeans, I ain't talking about just the preachers. I'm talking about the real big boys, the theologians. The Europeans have their understanding of Jesus' relationship with his 12 disciples. I don't need to say much more about that, do I? No. That's something that they understand. So, brothers and sisters, even look, this is the 13th, I think it's the 14th century, 1300s. This is a statue. That's Jesus, and that's John. This is how the Europeans understand their. Well, you know, you look at that ain't you know what it is. Who is it? Ganymede. Zeus and Ganymede. Everywhere you look, some of y'all saying, he holding into this idea. Let's get practical. All right, can we get practical?
Yeah, let's get practical, bro.
If I say the word Catholic priest, what's the first thing you think about? The prototype. Not just that they molest more children than anybody and that they're known for molesting children. The prototype of the pedophile. Right. In other words, you give the description of the behavior. Where does the pedophile learn how to go after children? The Catholic priest. Which means the definition of the pedophile comes directly from the Christian church. Right. You can't get no more homosexual than that. Right. And I got this up here. They got so many lawsuits coming today, but the truth of it is less than 1% of 1% of the people that are molested in the church are actually putting out lawsuits. So you start multiplying the numbers and you're talking about a sanctuary for sexually abusing children. You say, no, that's the Catholic church. That ain't, but I ain't Catholic. All right. We ain't got much more of this to go, but I don't want nobody to leave here with no argument about this. Every direction we look at. Now this, you know, the largest voting bloc in America, the single voting bloc, is the evangelicals. Right. You know, the Jimmy Swags, that Pentecostal, they have the largest number of individuals that are one voting bloc in this country. So I figured I picked that church just to show you it's homosexual no matter how you go. This is a member of the evangelicals who left who said, I can't be here no more. This is a white boy. His name was Austin Miles. He wrote a book. He's talking about the evangelicals. He said, this thing it's incredible. This is his words, page 149. I began to take special note of this sort of behavior in ministers as I went from church to church all over the United States and Canada. Reviewing my journal, the proportion of ministers I have reason to suspect were homosexually inclined is a staggering 80%. Y'all hear what I'm saying? The largest Christian base in this country is being run entirely by a bunch of flaming homosexuals. They're so gay that a white boy said, I can't even be around them. Even if it means me giving up millions of dollars to have my own church, I can't even be around them. And we going to be finished with this right now, but I got to do it. Because some of my brothers and sisters sitting in there, and I know they're going to be sitting at home watching this, and they're going to be going, yeah, them white folks is crazy. Don't try that, my friend. Don't try this with this guy. I got up early. I didn't get up early enough to stop that funny stuff that was going on with this. But I got up early enough for the Negro or the African who wants to try to hang on to something and ignore the truth. I'm going to do what I like to do, though, in situations like this, because I don't want to argue with you. Can I show you something real quick? So we can wrap this up. I know y'all want to get out of this white sex stuff. We want to talk about Christianity, but we haven't veered off Christianity very much, have we? Not at all. Just for my brothers and sisters.
A series of emails is causing a lot of controversy at one of the district's largest black Baptist churches.
Yeah, naming names, the messages claim that more than 100 members of Mount Calvary Holy Church are gay. Caroline Leiders has a copy of those emails, and she's live now with the story. Caroline?
Well, Leon, these emails are hardly a secret at the church. The woman who wrote them addressed them to the pastor, but then forwarded them to more than 300 other parishioners. The emails sparked heated debate among people both outside and inside the church.
6 pages of detailed activities and allegations. The female choir member names names and gives explicit detail. She outs married men, deacons and ushers, even teenagers, asking the pastor to, quote, monitor them very closely because they are ushering in a presence of sin, lies, and a spirit of homosexuality.
Now, I want people to stop that temptation in you to say, man, look at Mount Calvary. No. I ain't sure for that reason. We got to be honest with ourselves. Prior to this 1980s and this prison industrial complex, most black people's introduction into homosexuality, the black church. In fact, the black church has been the sanctuary, the hiding place for the homosexual. Only place he can operate in open air with his whole flaming sick sexual mentality, and we've allowed it to happen. What has been the consequence? The consequence has been very serious. How many of our sons, how many of our daughters have been molested in the church? Come on. We know about those Baptist churches in the South, preachers raping their own children, raping children in there. We know about the guys in the choir, running the choir, molesting the sons, molesting the boys. All of us got friends, family, maybe some of us, or people we heard of that have been abused in the church. It's been the place. And the sad thing about it is there are a lot of good Africans, a lot of good brothers and sisters in the church. But they don't take no real stand against it. So here this flamer sitting up there banging on the piano. He play a good song. But you mean he play a good enough song, you're going to let your son be alone with this Negro that you can look at. You can look him in his funny little twitching little eyes and know he ain't right. Don't no man sashay. When a Negro sashay, I say, children, come here. No, Negro, you stay there. You sashay. I'm very sad. I know we got to enjoy ourselves while we're here. And we get too sad about what's happening. We don't want to do nothing. But the reality of it, this is very serious. And I'm charging the church with the responsibility of going in there and saying, wait a minute now, they're right. We can't be the sanctuary for everybody that wants to do bad things in the community. Something's got to be done about this. But in relation to our discussion directly, I think I want a consensus. Have we hit Christianity from just about theologically, the story, who actually molests children, can we say fairly, based on historical analysis, it's a homosexual institution. So we're going to run through this because we got to get into some contemporary stuff, but we wanted to do some history. We wanted to tell the truth. We didn't want to offend, but we want to be honest with people. So we look now, and we see the history. We're going to do the summary here. We see it started, Asar set in the room. And from that, Europeans came in, and they took and made their own god, Zeus. And then Ptolemy and other Europeans came in under the Greeks and said, look, you got to worship me. I'm God Serapis. And eventually, the Europeans said, you know what? They were fighting in one part of Europe. They believed in the old god Zeus and the gods, the Greek goddess. Then the other Europeans stole idea from Africa. Remember we say Asar came back spiritually? Right. It was called the Koresh. His spirit, the Ka, had risen. So those Europeans were worshiping the Koresh, the Christ. So you got some of them worshiping Zeus, some of them worshiping the Christ, and they fighting back and forth, and the white boys finally said, look, okay, fine. Jesus Christ. Now you got two names. You happy? Right. And they say, yeah, we can call him Christ. You can call him Jesus, same guy. Right. And this same individual that we know as Serapis becomes today the venerable Jesus Christ. Right in front of our face. So we just give yourself a hand. You just traveled 2,000 years of history, and you took it like champions. I think we only lost one African on board. That wasn't our fault. We did the best we could do. We just lost. Hey, man, you can't expect 100% all the time. I understand. I'm not, look, and if you want to leave, look, this is the only time maybe I give you permission. You want to hate me? I understand. You've been lied to a long time, and I had to be the dirty messenger to come up with all this truth, so I give you permission. Now, you can't hold no hatred for me longer than a week now. We ain't having that. But if you need 7 days to go back and relax and be angry at somebody, be mad at me, not your other brothers and sisters, all right? Now, brothers and sisters, y'all all right? Yes, sir. I don't need to stop doing it. We can keep going, can we? Yes, ball kind of rolling, so we want to keep it rolling. Yes, we got to change pace, though, now, because we got to bring it up to contemporary times. We understand, okay, we know how it got that way. So now we got to say, what's happening? What's going on out here? And I wanted to start this part of the discussion. I really wanted to do this, and I had to find a way. I really had to find a way. And I really told over this because there's a lot of information to come. I said, I don't want to be talking too much. I said, I could tell them how the church, you know, they used to fleece people in ancient Europe. They go around taxation. I said, but that's not good. I said, you know what? I got to hit them right where it is. The reason I want to do this, I got to do this little part. We're going to talk about a concept where we're really going to call ROI. I was a finance major in Hampton University. And it's, how many people who knows what ROI is? What's that, my sister?
Return on investment.
Return on investment. Meaning if you put something in, you're supposed to what? Get something out. We're going to talk about what is the return on our investment as much as we put into this institution. But I got to start right here because so many of our brothers and sisters are pouring their money away with good intentions. And they're giving them to big criminals. So I just want to do one fell swoop. I'm not talking about the smaller churches. But these big churches, I'm just going to say across the board, brothers and sisters, they're a bunch of criminals. Right. And I can do a whole lot of fine. Finally, I say, you know what? You know how I like to do it. I can spend 5-10 minutes trying to convince you, or, you know what we say, right? Somebody here know what I'm about to say, right? We can show you better than we can tell you. Brother, can you do this for me?
For you, Robert K. Wood. He's got a chest condition that needs surgery.
Faith healer Peter Popoff claims miracle powers to cure, but in reality, his source of inspiration is a hidden receiver in his ear, in which his wife transmits names and ailments of audience members, making him appear to have psychic powers.
Jody Dean. Jody Dean? No, she should be right there on your right side. Right side.
Glory to God, come on up here.
No, that's not her.
Hallelujah.
No, that's not her.
Jody
in the blue.
Dean. Glory to God.
That might be her.
Here it comes.
Okay, she lives at 4267 Masterson.
4267 Masterson. I can see the angels of God all around your house.
And she's praying for her daughter Joy, who's allergic to
I'll tell you, God is going to give Joy complete deliverance. That's what you've been praying for. She's not going to have any more eating disorders. Before 86 is over, she's going to gain about 15 pounds, and you're going to rejoice. You're going to know. I'll tell you, she got shocked. She got shocked. Hallelujah.
I come here to be healed.
You come here to be healed. I see you have a cane. What is
arthritis?
Arthritis. How much money have you sent Peter, do you think?
I don't know. I don't know. I have sent $100 at a time.
I think what you're doing is you're exploiting this market. You're taking lonely people using the television medium for financial gain.
It's hard to answer a question like that. I mean, are cigarette advertisers exploiting their audience? Are the beer brewers exploiting their audience? You know, you could say, well, they are, yes.
You know, honestly, I had a whole segment. I said, there's nothing I can say. I really want brothers and sisters, please stop spending your money like this. And I want us to also be fair. Because a lot of times we look at, like, we saw a sister there. She was an elderly sister. She ain't got no real money. I mean, I don't know the sister, but she don't have no real money. And sometimes we blame victims. We look at our sister, we go, how could you be so naive and stupid to give your money to this guy? It's obvious he's a fraud, but you know, she ain't do it because she was naive and stupid. She was sick. And I don't know how many of y'all know. See, some of y'all got good government jobs. Right. I done been an individual on my own for quite some time, ain't got no good government job. Healthcare is not affordable. I can't afford healthcare. Especially not no bootleggers out here, I can't afford it. And so, she ain't naive necessarily or stupid. She's sick.
Right.
And when you're sick, you get desperate.
That's right.
Because you want to be healed. And when the doctors get finished giving you a bunch of prescriptions that they don't care really if they fix you or not, just charging up, making you more sick, trying to make you a drug addict, really. And then you try all the natural healers and everything like that, or you try everything you can, eventually you're going to go somewhere, and somebody may give you a pie in the sky story, but if you're sick, you want healing. Right. And I'm saying that to say, there's some real sick criminals out here. Right. But I want you to log this in your mind, because we're going to move on to this. But there's whites and black people in that audience. And when we talk about return on investment, we're going to have to deal with the fact that we got to figure out who's getting what on their investment. So remember that, because they fleecing everybody for their money, right? But I'm going to tell you this, whites are getting something back. We'll talk about it in a second. But I really want to talk about, we got to talk about dollars and cents. We talking about the black church. You know, black people, they say in 2004, one report said, we spent $11.3 billion in giving contributions. Wow. Charitable contributions. The vast majority of that was to the Christian church. That's where most of the money, most of those contributions are going. We're talking about billions of dollars. And I want us to ask a question. What is our return on investment? Return on investment. You put a lot of time and energy into your child. You teach them morals and values. You expect that they're going to act like they got some sense when they go out in the world, right? You put money into the bank. You want to get a little interest on that money, right? So our question is, and I just did this little chart just to give people, I want people to understand the kind of money on an individual basis that the church is pulling in. Let's say, for instance, with the idea of tithing, and I'm not talking about all them special collections that's done and the building funds and the this fund and the sister such and such fund and the We Love the World fund. I'm just talking strictly to the idea of tithing. If you got people, and in this area we know people average more than $2,000, $24,000 a year, but we say just an average. People make about $2,000 a year. They give it 10%. That's their tithing. 10%. That's $200. Right. If you got a 50-member church, that comes out to $120,000 a year. If we go down to 1,000-member churches, would everybody say there's a plenty of 1,000-member black churches in the Washington, D.C. area and every other metropolitan area? With those same numbers, somebody just averaging $2,000 a month, giving $200 a month, we're talking about $2.4 million per year. That's how much money is going into these institutions. And once again, that's not all the other stuff that's going in there. Here's a question. You would think with that kind of money, we would be able to look up and say, there's not one country in Africa that doesn't have a strong infrastructure. And there's zero unemployment in Africa because we put our money into our homeland. Right. Is that the case? No. You would think that you'd be able to look around and say, there's not one war going on in Africa because we take our money and we invest it in making sure that our homeland is peaceful and we mediate the conflicts with our brothers and sisters on the African continent. Is that true? You would think illiteracy rate in the black community, maybe they can say it's zero. You can say what you want, but if there's a black church in your community, there's not one person in the community that can't read because they make sure that our people can read. Right. Is that true? Yes, sir. You think maybe you can say, well, you can say what you want, but the most self-respectful, peaceful environment in America is the black community. Because one thing is, the church pumps morality and ethics into our people. They don't support homosexuality. They ban the N-word. If you try to use the N-word, the church will shut you down. If you try to commit a crime, the church work with the police and everything, put you out the community. So we have a people who call our women by positive names because the church don't allow nobody to disrespect black women. Is that the case? We really got to think about it, brothers and sisters. All of these billions of dollars going into this institution. Many of us have spent a lot of our hard-earned money and put it in there. The question is, what is the ROI? What is our return on the investment? And this is where we're going to start getting into our conversation, because the reality of it is everybody that supports the Christian religion gets one return on your investment. We know him as what? Yeah, but we learned about his name before. Serapis. We're going to call him Serapis today. Because some of my brothers and sisters, to hear something bad about Jesus, they're going to shake him off their foundation. So I love you too. I love you just as much as the other African. And I don't want to hurt your feelings. So we're going to call him what? Serapis. It's one thing you do get. And that's why I say the return on investment is a little different, because, yeah, those whites are getting fleeced in that Christian church when I say they putting all that money out. Hallelujah. But you know one thing they do get? They get a relationship with the divine. They get to know that they're a child of God. They get to know that God is their friend and God looks like them, which makes them on this planet what? Many gods. They are gods. That means something when you can go anywhere in the world, and not only do you feel better than everybody around, but the other people look at you and say you're a god too. It gives you access to people's resources. It gives you the type of treatment and self-esteem that you would pay for. But see, when you're an African, and we give to this institution, it's the investment that keeps taking. Because not only do you give your money, but you give away your direct relationship to the Creator. You no longer know the Creator, you know Serapis. And as long as you know Serapis, that's all you need. So now you know that you have no relationship to God because He don't look like you. He don't smell like you, and your heroes don't look like this. So you got to go to Him to get divine, and I don't know what He might ask you to do. I don't know. But I'm going to tell you this. I want you to understand this. This is real. When we say that your return on investment is to get loved by Serapis, they say Jesus, get the love of Jesus. That's not nothing they hide. They tell us this every day. I ain't making this up. This ain't no fancy. Hey, that's what you get when you come in here. You get to know that Jesus loves you. But that's a... You'll see how this plays out because, you know, I saw this article and I've had this thing about 2 years now. This thing bothers me so bad. And I said, I really want to share this with people because I'm going to show you what it means when people hate you, but they tell you that you can come and you can get their God. This is real heavy, man, because I want you to remember, if these were white folks that this happened to, nobody would have done this. This was in a place called Maradi, Niger. It's actually an African country, Niger, but there's a Muslim population. These brothers and sisters were starving. In fact, they said about 4 million out of the 12 million people were starving during this famine. More than 60,000 urgently needed Bibles arrived to allay suffering throughout the famine-stricken nation of Niger Friday, and one of the largest humanitarian relief operations ever attempted by a Christian ministry. This is Sister saying you can't eat it. You know, if you're going to talk to a first grader and you say people are hungry, what do they need? They say food, water. She goes on, this is our Christina Clarkson, Executive Director of the Living Light Ministries. She says, come rejoice and feast upon the word of our Lord Jesus Christ. Those who were hungry hunger no more, for the word brings life. Once they hear the good news of Jesus Christ and accept Him as their Lord and Savior, once they really take Him into their hearts, then they will see what poor comforts are the things of this world. Here, we have brothers and sisters who are starving to death. And I don't care if it's a black church or a white Christian church. The bottom line, the Christian church understands one thing. The Christian church, black life means nothing. Nobody cares about them dying. That ain't the issue. The real thing is that we don't have a problem with you dying, but we want your soul before you go. So here, take this with you before you leave. You know, come to our God before you die. Now look, we could give you water. We could give you food and save your life. But no. Now see, if it was whites, even a white church, a white ministry would say, no. They're suffering. They don't need your Bibles. You don't give them food and Bibles. Give them food. We can go evangelize later. This is what they need to survive because they're nationalists. But when it comes to Africans, the only thing that we're promised is not life, not food, not respect. The return on our investment is that we get to love Him. This real. This real. I thought this was so in place. It's George Barna of the Barna Group. They do some research and analysis of things that happen in America. One of the things they said, placing the profile of whites and blacks side by side is like looking at people from different sides of the planet. While whites tend to be self-reliant, black people are more likely to rely on God. Whites persevere on the basis of their drive to achieve, black people on the basis of their faith. Whites turn to business leaders and government officials to represent them in the world. Black people support their religious leaders. Now, this is a white boy talking. He didn't look at it and say, this was happening. So now we got to figure out why. What's the return on investment for the European? What's the return on investment for the African? And why is it like this? Y'all all right? Yes, all right, let's go after this then. we want to understand, because see, there's a question we got to ask ourselves. How is it that both black people and whites in America practice Christianity? Check? Yeah. Okay. But when planes fly into white folks' towers that we initially was sure that it was Arabs and everything, now we kind of confused with all this stuff going on. Nevertheless, white folks say, you fly planes into our towers, we kill your babies. So their religion tells them, hey, you fly into my plane, I'm going to kill every Arab I get a chance. I mean, they killing some Arabs. That's what they feel like they have the right to do. But when black people, something happens to us, we supposed to turn the other cheek, right? Now, how is it that we both practice Christianity, but we get different things out of it, brothers and sisters? You know, the slave and the slave master share the same doctrine. Right. It just applies to them differently. Like the slave doctrine says the slave master has the right to do whatever he wants to do to his slave. And the slave master look at it, right, I have the right to do whatever I want to do to my slave. And the slave reads the same thing. Oh yeah, the slave master has the right to do whatever he wants to do to me. Yeah, you got the right to do whatever you want to do to me. It's the same doctrine, but it applies to them differently. And so what we want to understand is that Europeans never gave us quote-unquote Christianity. Whatever it is that they're practicing and have them on top of this planet, that's not what they gave us. Because if they gave it to us, we'd be on top of the planet too, right? They gave us something different. But what they gave us is something we call slave religion. So we're going to talk about slave religion. It's very, very important to us. Matter of fact, there's a book called American Dilemma. It was a European during the early 1900s. The whites wanted to figure out what should we do about this race problem. So they called in a neutral European. His name was Gunnar Myrtle. And he went around doing research. He interviewed black sharecroppers, white theologians, everybody in the society, and came up with a book of analysis about this country. And he said that when theologians, legislators, and courts declared around the year 1700 that conversion to Christianity was not incompatible with the worldly status of a slave, slaveholders went out of their way to provide a religious teaching and a place of worship for their slaves. Their primary motive, undoubtedly, was that the Christian religion suited their interests in keeping the slaves humble, meek, and obedient. Let's talk about this. My allergies hitting me a little bit, but that's all right. We're going to work through it. We got to talk about this for a minute. See, the European got to a point during slavery where he said, okay, I'm going to rape your wife tonight. I'm going to cut your father's foot off. Right. And I'm going to sell your baby in the morning. But I want to go to sleep and feel good tonight. Right. Well, you do that kind of stuff to somebody, it's kind of hard to go to sleep. You don't know what they might do. They might run away. They might come up in there trying to give you some payback. So they said, we have got to do something to control these people's minds. If we control their minds, Carter G. Woodson told us, we don't have to worry about their actions. Right. So they decided, you know what we're going to do? And it was we got to give Europeans some credit for really thinking. They said, we're going to take members of their own community, the most humble and obedient slaves, and we're going to give them special status. And we're going to teach them that they're Christians. We're going to give them religion. They were called the Negro preacher. That's what we call him, the preacher. They made him. And they said, we're going to teach him what to teach his own people. And in that way, they can still practice the quote-unquote Christian religion, but I can go to sleep at night. And so they said, we're going to teach them, this is their objective. They said, you know, if we're going to get some sleep, one, black people have to love white folks. If they love us, they ain't going to kill us. Right. Two, they got to hate each other. If they hate each other, they be too busy fighting amongst each other to do anything to us. Right. And lastly, they got to feel like ain't nothing they can do about nothing. Because who cares how they feel if they feel like there's nothing they can do anyway. And so, in order to do that, they gave 4 sermons to the Negro preacher. They said, look, you can do these sermons again and again, however you want to spin them, and teach your people these concepts and ideas, and you're a good boy. Wow. 1 was obey your master. Well, you make it very simple. You obey your master. He's the master, right? 2, turn the other cheek. Because they know they're going to be smacking some cheeks, and they need us to think when they smack them, what we're supposed to do, turn the other cheek. 3, you'll get yours in heaven. That's the most powerful one. I mean, don't worry about here. Yours is coming on the other side. And lastly, love your enemy. Because he knows some black people smart enough to say, this is my enemy. So he said, what do? Well, tell them to love the enemy. This are the 4 sermons that the Negro preacher taught yesterday, today, and as long as they Negro preachers, these are the same sermons you'll get. Some of y'all will be in church tomorrow, and you're going to start there, you're going to have a shock in your life. You're going to say, oh, the African Holy Ghost hit me. Because that preacher going to slip up and say one of them things, and you're going to say, oh, my goodness, I know that brother told me the truth. I didn't want him to be telling me the truth. That's all they ever teach us. You know, how many people remember Cincinnati where the brothers got shot and killed by the police officers? People remember that? I never forget, it was almost surreal. I turned on the TV and I was watching, and Brothers and Sisters was about to riot. And I saw this Negro preacher in his cheap suit. I said, let me get a better suit. He came out there and told the brothers and sisters, no, you got to calm down and let cooler heads prevail. I said, the Negro preacher, man, he ain't changed at all. When they kill black people, he tell them to turn the other cheek. But now the Iraq war goes off, I ain't heard one preacher say no members of my congregation, whether or not you in the army or not, can go to a war and kill somebody for them because God wouldn't want you to do that. They just obey their master. If master tell them to go kill somebody, they go kill somebody. If master tell them to turn the other cheek when they get beat up, they just turn the other cheek. It's nothing but slave religion. I want to focus on this one here because this one right here, this is the anesthesia. This is the drug that keeps black people immobile. As a matter of fact, the vast majority of our people, wherever you find them, this is the one that has us locked down. That's why we don't do nothing. Take a look at this picture. I think it's a real interesting picture. You know, the most important thing for the Christian preacher is to arrest your intellectual development. He wants you to stop thinking. You know what I'm talking about? They do it real early. This is how they do it. They take you in to the church. And first thing they do there, she said, don't ask. Before they tell you not to ask no questions, first they take you in, sit you down, and you watch this movie, right? And it got these sound effects in the background, and if you don't believe in Jesus Christ, your Lord and Savior, if you don't accept Serapis, then they show the fire coming up, right? And they say you're going to burn forever and ever in the fiery pits of hell, and you're going to feel the fire and the brimstone. Now, all that other stuff didn't bother me, but the brimstone? Look, let me tell you, this is the honest God truth. I'm going to tell you how bad brimstone is in my head. Since we've been doing these lectures, I done looked up brimstone 3 times so that I can really come and tell people what brimstone is. I don't remember what it is. Because in my mind, it's these hot bricks. They like red and brown, right? And it's like they real hot. And it's like you got a pot of hot bricks and it's like brimstone. I'm like, I don't even like the word. And we laugh, right? You know, we try to think when we're young. We go in there and we say, look, preacher, well, Adam and Eve was the first people, yes. And they had Cain and Abel, right? Yes. And Cain killed Abel, yeah. Then he went out to the land of Nod and got a wife, yes. Where'd the wife come from? Huh? And where'd the city come from, preacher? Because if it's a city, you got restaurants and stuff like that. So I don't understand. Well, some things you're not supposed to understand. Nah, preacher, I think that I should be able to understand if you want me to believe. Listen, don't you question the wisdom of God. But preacher, I ain't questioning the wisdom of God. I'm questioning your wisdom. I'm sure God got all these answers. So I want to know, preacher. You know, if you keep going this direction, young man, you know where you're going to end up. The fiery pits of hell with the brimstone. All right. Now we laugh, but the truth of it is this, brothers and sisters. Most, not all, most of our people, not that we're stupid, most of our people, we learn that when we're young, and we don't question it. It's not that we're stupid. So we start at 5 believing this, and then when we're 95 or 55 or 105, we have the same thing in our mind. It never comes down. What's so dangerous about that? The danger is that now they have stopped us from thinking. And if you don't think, you can't make good decisions. But more importantly, they have colonized the afterlife. They have captured our imagination. If you cannot imagine yourself being a great basketball player, how you going to work towards the goal? If we can't imagine ourselves being free, how you going to get free? How you going to figure out what to do if you can't even begin the process of thinking? I showed this picture. I think it's such an interesting picture because I want people to understand. They didn't just paint these things for no reason. I want you to imagine for a minute. See now, look. In all fairness, we know about paint. Some of us are artists, so forth, what have you. We've been to school and everything. Remember, we didn't have any school and education. Not even time to think. Imagine you're on a slave plantation and you want to be free. You want to be independent. You're thinking about escaping. You're like, I'm sick of this. Because in the back of your mind, you're thinking, so what if I die? Death would be better than this. At least I can go back and see my ancestors. And that might be what's in your head. This is a powerful picture. When you walk past the big house and they walk all the brothers and sisters from the plantation, the big house, and you look at this, you go, dang. It never crosses your mind. It never crosses your mind that somebody drew this and that it might not be true. You see it. Seeing is believing. So you go, dang. What good is it me? Even if I escape, I still got to go answer to him. Even if I still got to go down and kiss his feet. What good is it for me to leave? Even if I leave, if I stay, I lose. If I leave, I lose. Why do anything? See, when you colonize the afterlife, brothers and sisters, you got everything. Because a people's imagination is arrested. Understand, when you're talking to some of our brothers and sisters, all of us, trying to save our people, we get frustrated sometimes. We talking to our Christian brothers and sisters, and we breaking it down. We got the science going and everything. And you know, they look at us with that little smirk. You be like, I want to knock that smirk off. What are you smirking about? You agreeing with everything I'm saying. They sit there and look at you and they go, yeah, I agree with everything you're saying. I hear you. I can't argue with you. But you know what in the back of their mind is? This is why we don't understand. We thinking that it's about facts and information. Sometimes a little deeper than that. At the end of the day, they sitting there saying, I hear everything you're saying, but when it's all said and done, Slim, I ain't answering to you. I got to go answer to him. And he don't want to hear none of this stuff that you sitting there talking about. So you can talk to you blue in the face, because I know who I got the answer to. So we got to figure out a way, brother. We really got to figure out a way. We're not just dealing with facts and information. They've colonized our people's imagination. Our people can't think outside of this invisible prison in their mind, and so they're stuck in this place. And they can't move because we haven't figured out the magic touch to make them, shake them out of that and get them going. I'm going to tell you a true story. Now, this is a true story. I'm not making this up for this loud. I'm telling you the true story. First, I want to tell you, I know that it's my belief. I'm not trying to tell you to believe it. That's why I say it's my belief. I believe it. Now, it started off, and there was somebody here probably, I don't know if it was my mother, I was talking to one of the brothers about 15 years ago. We was talking, and I was just yapping off at the mouth. And I said, when I die, man, I want Nat Turner to meet me at the gates. And whoever I was with, they laughed. They said, that's pretty cool. And I got a chuckle out of it, too. I said, that's cool. I said, I like that idea. I don't exactly know how it happened. I'm going to be honest with you. I suspect the kind of work that we're doing and the odds we're against, you need things to compensate and help you do what you're doing. So maybe I made myself believe this, but this is the honest to God truth, brothers and sisters. Right now, as I stand before you, what drives and motivates me is that my belief is when I die, if I stay committed to my race and I fought for my people and I give these crackers all the hell that they can stand, that all the killers going to welcome me at the gate. Nzinga and Garvey and Elijah and Nat Turner, and they going to say, good job, son. That's all I want. This might sound simple to you, but that's all I want. And appreciate that. And I ain't got no false idea that they gonna want to hang out with me or nothing. Just the fact that they say good job, that's good enough. I'm gonna go find my granddaddy. I never got a chance to meet Russell. I want to meet Russell Easter. All right? But there's a flip side to that too. This is the hard part. I feel like if I quit, if I turn on my race, if I accept money to turn on my people, if I get weak, or if I change my mind, start lying to you, or any of that kind of stuff, or if I get scared, that when I go to the spiritual realm, my ancestors are going to be appalled at my behavior, and they're not going to want to have nothing to do with me. And like sometimes I play basketball and run and shoot. I think I'm pretty good. But sometimes I stink up the court, and I just know how it feels when you play real bad and walk off, and brothers be like, yeah, all right, Slim. And don't nobody want to be around you, and I be like, I'm not living no eternity. When my ancestors not want my spirit nowhere around, and I'm walking around, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to tell you now, it might sound funny. That scares me more than all the cracker and his guns or anything. I can't imagine eternity being hated by my own people. So I'm going to tell you, we laugh at what the Christians think, but the reality of it is, in the absence of information and the ability to get truth, belief is stronger than anything. Because I'm going to tell you, now I love this black man in the back. I ain't afraid to say I love a man. This is the greatest man on this planet, Christian Black Unified. And you can get that man, give him some love. Hey, Chris, you better not clap, because I'm going at you right now, I'm telling you. Don't you clap. You can go get Astro Crazy, the master teacher. You can go get Dr. Joseph. You can get all of them sit around in a semicircle at the table and say, young brother, come sit down. Irritated Genie, I'm going to sit down. They say, look, we've done all the math, brother. And now, let me just say, for these brothers would never do that. But I'm just trying to make a point here. We've done all the math. It's impossible for us to win. It's ridiculous for us to keep going on. It's da-da-da. And all I'm going to hear is womp, 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 womp. And at the end of it, because I respect them, I'm saying, you know what, y'all brothers are right, man. But in the back of my mind, you know what I'm saying? you can talk to y'all, I can talk to y'all blue in the face, because when I die, I got to go answer to my ancestors, and they don't want to hear none of this stuff and excuses of why I quit, who told me it couldn't be done, or nothing like that. So ain't nothing gonna change my way because of a belief that I had. That's right. Now I'm not trying to tell anybody to share my belief, but I am saying this: when your enemy has your imagination, he has everything. That's right. That's right. He has everything. That's right. We look here at this book, American Dilemma, and I tell you, sometimes white folks looking at us can give us a better perspective of ourselves. He said, in most Negro communities visited by the present writer, the progressive Negro leaders trying to organize the Negro community for defense complain about the timidity and disinterest of the part of the preachers. Right. They talk too much about heaven and too little about down here. I mean, he summed that up, didn't he? And I tell you, let me tell you something, brothers and sisters. The preacher, the nationalist community, we don't give him enough credit for sophistication. He's not informed. He don't know about history, but he is an armchair psychologist. I'm gonna show you how he does it too, because see, this you'll get yours in heaven. It's a very important concept to understand. Think about the songs we sing. Soon and very soon, we are going to see the king. Let me just show you who the king is. That's the king. Oh, ain't no black king. This is who we going. Now, what's going on in the mind of somebody who's singing that song? Oh, when the saints go marching in, I want to be in that. I want to be in the number. What number is this? Now, they ain't going to tell you that this is what they see in their mind. Right. But you got to be a psychologist and understand. Now, the preacher knows. That's what they're looking at, right? So the preacher says, hey, use a good example. Let's say a black man and woman get lynched. Right. And the black community is in an uproar. We ready to just burn it down. I'm telling you, anytime the black community is enraged, that's a payday for the preacher. I'm telling you how it works. They call the preacher and say, preacher, we need you to calm this thing down. It's getting out of control. Preacher come in there and say, well, I don't, it's bad out there. So they write him a little check. You look at it. I really don't know what I can do. You walk off. So the white boy looks at another white boy and says, just give me the checkbook. They write the big, don't pay him that. Just shut up. Preacher. They all preacher Paulies to me. Preacher Paulie. Right. Come here. Oh, you say you want me to try to help you? Okay, all right. He's thinking, oh, this is Maybach. I've been wanting this Maybach. I'm going to drive me something nice. Now, he come in and he survey you. I'm going to tell you. There are times when the black community, you can't tell them to love no enemy because they ain't feeling it. There's times when you can't tell them to turn the other cheek. Right. And there's times when you can't tell them to obey no master, which we almost don't want to hear that at all these days. Right. But now, he can always rely on his good old-fashioned, you'll get yours in heaven. He come into the room, everybody angry, ready to fight, ready to go out there and do something. And so he realized, he surveyed you and he say, they too angry for me to try to pull them back. I know, I'm going to use the I know you trick. That means I know you. He come out like, brothers and sisters, can I talk to you for just a minute? Just for a minute, y'all. Yeah, we want to talk. Tell them to talk to me. Listen. I'm angry. And you go there, yeah, I'm angry too. That's right, preacher. So, these crackers are getting out of control. The preacher said cracker? Said, oh, y'all looking at me funny because I said cracker. See, I'm from Mississippi. We had the real crackers back then. Tell you a little story my grandmama used to tell me. The only thing between you and that rope out there is a 45 shell and about a 5-minute head start. They go, whoa, the preacher. That's right. So I know about crackers. Don't think I don't. The preacher, I ain't always been a man of God. I had to fall before I got back up. He said, and last night, I was falling. I was right back where I was when I was a little boy in Mississippi. And I went to my back room and I got that 45 that my grandmama left me. And the people were like, damn, what the preacher about to do? What he about to say? What'd he do? He said, I went and got that 45, put my shells in it, and I walked to the door and I opened the door. 1 foot in the door and 1 foot out the door. Right. And my wife Millie said, Paulie. She said, Paulie, what you about to do, Paulie? And Millie sitting next to him on the podium going, we were playing bingo last night. He's like, baby, don't worry, we're going to have Maybach. Just chill out. She said, Paulie, what you about to do? And a voice went through my mind. The voice said, that's the wrong question. And I froze like I couldn't move. I said, the wrong question. I said, I don't know what I'm about to do. And then it all came to me. I said, it is the wrong question. It ain't about what am I about to do. The right question is, what would Jesus do? Oh, y'all waited too. Y'all baked now. Y'all done. It's over. Y'all baked like them chocolate chip cookies y'all gonna eat when it's over. Baked like it's it. Oh, y'all gone now. He started hooping. He played a little piano. He talked black hatred and white hate. Oh, y'all done. Y'all should have stopped me way. As soon as I got up there and said, I know you're not preaching, not preaching. Put somebody else up there. They know us very well. Check. Well, you say, brother, hey, that's how they do it. They're very dangerous. The preacher is the most dangerous person in the black community, really, because he knows us the best, and he uses his knowledge to support the system of racism and white supremacy. As we wind up here, we're going to take a brief break, and we're going to come back on and finish it up. Y'all not too tired to do the second part, right? It ain't going to be long, but it's going to be strong. Is that all right for y'all? All right, we're going to come back. We ain't going to talk about preacher parlay. We're going to talk about it some more. We're going to talk about this concept, love your enemies. All right, we back in direct. We back on the set. Y'all all right? I didn't make nobody hate me too much, did I? Y'all ain't thinking about suicide bombing PKV now, are you? We don't want to start no Christian suicide bombers, and we got to stop this stuff. But we talking about concepts that are taught to our people, given to the Negro preacher on the plantation, and have been fed to us for hundreds of years. We said that the most popular concept, the one that the vast majority of our people are trapped in, is the one where they have their imagination is captive. The colonization of the afterlife is gone, and they cannot imagine anything but the life they live today. So we got to break them out of that one. But the most insidious one, the most evil one, and it's the most evil and the most painful one, is the one that completely turns oneself against God. Wow. Let's understand something for a minute. God made everything that lives with a nature. And one common thread throughout all living things. You say, well, we ain't got nothing in common, white folks. There's one thing. That living things are created with the desire to continue to live. Right. It's called self-preservation. Right. Even a plant, you know, they got plants that have, over the course of millions of years, have changed and altered themselves and grown thorns and stuff because animals were eating too much, and so it had to adapt to an environment that was trying to be eaten, so to grow thorns and poison and all this kind of stuff. Right. Trying to continue to survive. Right. That is a God principle, because that is how God made living things. The creator, that's how it was created. When you love something that is trying to destroy your life, when you are enamored and love something trying to destroy you, go directly against the God nature that permeates throughout all living things. That's right, brother. And so this is a very evil concept. It's clever. If you didn't know that it worked, you would almost say it can never work. Because it's dichotomous. Once you've said somebody is your enemy, you've already identified as your enemy, right? Right. So to say to love them don't even make no sense. You almost say, well, you can't teach somebody this because you classify them as enemy. But the Europeans have done it. And I show this picture here because, you know, we get in debates all the time. We talk to brothers and sisters trying to get people to think. I'm going to tell you something. One thing I love about black people, a lot of what happens with us is that we just don't know. We truly don't understand. We're not evil people, bad people. Right. One thing I have never been able to do, because, you know, they say love your enemy, right? I say, I got one for black people. I said, the Ku Klux Klan, everybody knows that's our enemy. I mean, and I have tried on some of the worst Uncle Toms and Negroes that I've come across. Right. None of them will say that they love the Ku Klux Klan. Right. I mean, I use all my logical, magical powers to try to get them, oh, if you love your enemy, you love the Klan, right? Nah, I don't love no Klan. But you said you love your enemy. Yeah, well, I said that, but I ain't loving no Ku Klux Klan. I said, well, we still got some hope. But I talk about this man all the time. I know people think, why is he always picking on Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.? The reason I talk about Dr. Martin Luther King, we talk about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. so much, is not that we're picking on the brother. It's that if we notice the things that Europeans focus on what he said are the things that are absolutely positively killing us. This is one of the main ones. You know, he did a sermon in 1957 called Loving Your Enemies. Right. And he said, this concept is so basic to me because it is part of my basic philosophical and theological orientation. You know that he's talking about whites if you listen to the whole sermon, because he says, you know, he's talking about the people that bomb us, they kill us, and so he said, okay, you've identified whites as enemies. Right. But then you said that you love them. Normally, I do a discussion on it, but this time I said, once again, you know, I always talk about it, but I never show people yourselves. I want you to see the practical application of what happens when we follow individuals who have a mentality that they say, that they declare that they love the enemy. Let's see how it plays itself out. I want you to get that microphone close because I don't want people to miss any part of this. It's very short, but I want you to hear this.
6 years before his Birmingham campaign, Martin Luther King Jr. wrote this sermon titled, "Loving Your Enemies."
Throw us in jail and we will still love you. Bomb our homes and threaten our children and we will still love you. We will wear you down by our capacity to suffer.
A bomb planted by the Ku Klux Klan exploded outside the bathroom window.
It was just kind of chaos. Police immediately surrounded the building.
Birmingham had once again become Bombingham.
This was the first point at which I really realized that my parents were powerless to protect me. You came to church, you had friends who by the afternoon were dead.
The lives of 4 little girls stopped at 10:22 a.m. When faced with such despair, Dr. King relied heavily on his faith.
In spite of the darkness of this hour, we must not become bitter, nor must we harbor the desire to retaliate with violence. No, we must not lose faith in our white brothers.
One thing about this religion is it forces you to be a liar. It forces you. See, the truth of it is that if you're just trying to be treated like a civilized human being and not be mistreated, and you rely on the fact that these individuals who are brutalizing you for no reason, that if you're nonviolent and you talk to them, that they would change. And then for your kindness and generosity, they murder your little daughters, that is the very time to become bitter. It is not true that that is not the time that you're supposed to lose faith in your white brothers. No. If you tried working with them and loving them and saying this is how we're going to operate, and their answer to that is that, okay, you want to work with us? Boom, we're going to murder your little baby daughters. That is the very time to say, this is the time for us to lose faith in our white brothers. We have to take another approach. Because they're going to murder our babies. That's not acceptable. So maybe we got to stop loving them and figure out what we can do. Maybe we need to love each other. Something. Anything other than loving the people that are going to kill our babies. But this is what happens. And I want my brothers and sisters who are in the church, I want you to really be mature about this. I want you to consider the fact that the reality of it is, even you should understand this. When it comes to conflicts between black people and whites, you should not even want a Christian involved in the conflict leading the way. Why not? Because you know that they have a vested interest, theologically, that they have to love this person that is harming us. Wouldn't it be better, and we all know that the answer is yes, for somebody black who has no relationship and no sense of loyalty or anything to lose by the conflict with the European to be the one that we put out in front and say we'll follow this person because they love us, not the person that's trying to destroy us. And I'm saying, see, what happens is a real thing. First of all, when you're talking about warfare, and let's get right down to it. When you're talking about black people in America trying to do better for ourselves and being in this country, it's always been warfare. Every step forward, we take one step. White folks try to push us back 2 steps. So it's warfare. You never tell nobody what you ain't gonna do. I tell you what, I'm not saying it's the best solution, but it will be better to tell them, look, if you kill my children, I'm gonna kill your children. Even if you know you're not gonna do it. It'll be better to tell white folks that than to tell them, if you kill my children, I ain't gonna do nothing. Because if you tell him you ain't gonna do nothing, you just giving him permission to kill him, you've incentivized him. Even if you don't mean it. I'm not saying it's the best solution, but if you tell him, if you kill my children, I'm gonna kill your children, when the white boys go to set the bomb off, one of them gonna say, you know what? I got children. And I don't know if they mean it or not, but it don't mean enough for me to kill their children for something to happen to my children. So I tell you what, let's wait for the children to leave. Then they're gonna still bomb you. But at least they're not going to kill your children because at least you put the thought in their head that something will make you respond. It's a very dangerous thing to do, to have our Christian brothers and sisters in leadership positions when it's about conflict with Europeans. Now, if it's about negotiating things or whatever, that's a little different. But whenever there's a conflict, and I'm really talking to my Christian brothers and sisters, everybody else knows this, but I want y'all to actually say, you know what, based on our commitment, because what happens is this, Martin Luther King, in this situation, this is what happens with the Christian minister. He has an end result that is permanent. His end result is, I love white folks. What happens with the normal person, they say, well, we want to try to get freedom, and they don't necessarily know what that means. So when the 4 little girls get bombed, the average person says, what do we do now? Because you don't know what the end result is now. You're just trying to get some abstract thing called freedom, and you do it as you go. But for the Negro preacher, he don't say, what do we do now? He already has the end result. They killed 4 of our little daughters. At the end of the result, I love white folks. So now he got to make I love white folks somehow match with 4 little girls getting killed. And that's why what he's saying don't make no sense, because he already decided that no matter what, he's going to love white folks. That's dangerous. Brother says this is dangerous, and nobody teaches black people how to love our enemies and those who destroy us better than the Negro preacher. The preacher is... Wow. This Negro, I show this every time. This is one of the most ridiculous, unbelievable stories you can imagine. Negro Fred Caldwell, now he's down in Shreveport, Louisiana. This is not a joke. This Negro announced to his black congregation, who feeds him and makes sure that he lives good. He said, we have a problem in this church. We don't have no white folks. So what we gonna do, I'm gonna pay $10 an hour on Thursday night for white folk to come and sit in here. They get $10 an hour. He gonna take, see, when you talking about loving your enemy, you talking about a deep concept, because it's like a coin. You know, you got a coin, if you flip it, it's gonna land on heads or tails, right? But it don't matter which side it lands on, the inverse is still there. It's still a heads and a tail. When you love something trying to destroy you, the inverse of that is you hate yourself. When you hate yourself, if someone tries to do harm to you, it makes sense that you would love it. It's an inverse relationship. So he hates his own people so much. He got the gumption to look an African in the face and say, look, that hard-earned money, you making $7 an hour that you give me, because you love me, I don't love you, I love them. And I'm going to take your money and add $3 on top of it with her money, and I'm going to give some white folk just to be in their present $10 an hour. I want to be white. Look, I don't know. What do you say? I don't know. We went to Ghana. Brothers and sisters, this idea of loving your enemy, when you go to the African continent and see it, I tell you what's different about the African continent than here. You know, we've been involved in it so long, you know how it's hard to look at yourself in a normal manner and see what's going on when you're involved in something yourself. But if you're looking at somebody else do it, it becomes far more glaring and make you kind of reconsider what you're going through. We go into Ghana, here you see the black unifier, right here in the slave dungeon with the small hats with their Mogan Daoud. We see where they had them labeled the female dungeons. In the middle of the slave dungeon, the hook-nosed hat got a Portuguese church. They in there worshiping while they enslaving our ancestors. And it's real heavy. They start talking about how they enslaved us. And they're talking about Elmina Castle, which was built in 1482, prior to the actual slave trade. It's real deep. They said, the castle housed a Christian primary school and carried out conversions of the local inhabitants, with the King of Portugal bestowing a special cash prize for conversion. Now, here's some hats. They're not even Christians. They small hats. But they recognize that in order to enslave black people, see, understand, our people don't know why the slave dungeon is there. It looks kind of strange these white folks got this dungeon there. They don't know why it's there though, but the white folks know, the small hats know exactly what they're going to do. The so-called Jews, the white so-called Jews, they're going to enslave us. But they say, you know what? If it's going to make this easier for us, we got to get them mentally prepared to be enslaved. Because a free man ain't going to stand for nobody putting them in chains and shackling them. So they actually would pay black people money. We asked what the ROI, return on investment, was. This is his investment. He invested money it meant so much to him to have us mentally enslaved and worship his white Christ, knowing the impact and how much easier it would be to have him enslave us and how much more money he would make in the end, that he paid black people for conversion. I tell you, I wasn't going to tell this story, but since the brother showed up, now I'm telling you a true story. Brother Tashango, could you put your hand up so they know I ain't making up nobody? That African in the back, brother told me, he said, brother, we was at Elmina. And we can vouch for this PKB because we seen it. We didn't see this though, I ain't gonna lie. The young brothers were at the slave dungeon. And some white folks walked in the dungeon. And they started jumping up and screaming and celebrating. So he walked up to the young brother and said, why are you so excited? You know what the young brother said? He said, man, we don't have to go to church on Sunday because we just saw God face to face. Wow. So he looked, am I going to tell the truth, brother? Yes, sir. Okay, all right. I don't want nobody to think I'm making nothing. He told me the story and I said, well, I know he's telling the truth because PKB, we were driving through. I mean, listen, we are in the cultural hub of Ghana with the national heroine, Yaa Asantewaa, who fought the British. That's right. I'm telling you, if you don't mention the name Yaa Asantewaa when you're in Ghana, in Kumasi, you ain't gonna hear the name Yaa Asantewaa. I mean, Seventh-day Adventist Church, Grace Baptist Church. Look, this is just people riding down the street. Eventually, it got so much too bad to me, I said, let me just start taking pictures. Now listen, you would think that in a place where the national hero is Yaa Asantewaa, it would say, in the spirit of Yaa Asantewaa, we will always be free. And every car would have her picture. Or the poster boards. If you don't say the name Yaa Asantewaa, you won't see her. We even went to the castle where she lived, the museum, dedicated to Ghanaian freedom. He didn't mention her name till we said, what about Yaa Asantewaa? Oh yeah, she's over there. But you can't go nowhere without Serapis. I mean, it's just a regular person driving down the street in the blood of Jesus. Got white, stark white. They don't even got the little, you know, some people got that half melanated, kind of funny Adrian Fenty, Jesus Christ. Please give me a half kind of, so I get a little hope. Give me a half Jesus Serapis. Give me like a Serap without the S. You know what I'm saying? I ain't getting nothing. I mean, they give a little, thank you, Jesus. I mean, look, this is in Ghana. I didn't win. In no way you go. We sitting down eating. I tell you how insidious this is. This brother, Dr. Kojo, he does the education part of our trip because he's a master historian on the history of Ghana. And we were talking about religion. You see with Serapis looking right down on us. And he said, you know, y'all talking about the religion is very interesting. He said, when I was growing up, they were trying to Christianize us. He said, literally, if you didn't go to church on Sunday, when you got to school on Monday morning, they would get all the children to gather around and all the teachers, and they would whip you mercilessly for long periods of time to say, you better show up to church. This indoctrination of our brothers and sisters in Africa, brothers and sisters, is surreal. And the saddest part is that we talked earlier about return on investment. We talked about what is the Christian church? What is the black Christian church going and giving to our continent? You know what they're giving them? The worship of Serapis. Say, take this with you before you leave. We see, brothers and sisters, you're murdering each other. You don't have your economics right. Whites have embargoes in certain areas, in places like Zimbabwe, where the whites are creating great famine and great inflation. Do we go there and say, hey, we can help you out. We can develop the farms. We can do this. Does the church take those billions of dollars and say we're going to invest in our race? We say, same thing white boys say, take this with you before you leave. You got to know Jesus. And it is absolutely killing our continent. And there's no better example of it than Nigeria. Brothers and sisters, what's happening in Nigeria is so outlandish and remarkable that if I didn't have something that I can show you, it's nothing I can say to you to get you to understand what's happening. This is an article, September 4th, 2007, in Nigeria, Achina, Nigeria. It says, born to a family of traditional priests, Ibe Nwigwe converted to Christianity as a boy. Under the sway of born-again fervor as a man, he gathered the paraphernalia of ancestral worship, a centuries-old stool, a metal staff, and a wooden handle, and the carved figure of a god, and burned them as his pastor watched. Black people and whites are taking this religious worship of Serapis, Jesus Christ, over to Africa. And our people are taking, let me tell you how rich the culture is in Nigeria. They have statues of gods and goddesses that go back 1,300 years. Talking about 700, that's when the Moors were going and conquering Spain. Black folks going up in Spain and conquering Europe. Most of us, unless we come across the right book, don't even know about a lot of that type of history. I mean, we're talking about a time period where most of us can't put our hands on what was going on in the world during that time. They have culture, straight line delineated from that time. And the Christian ministers in Nigeria are saying, the reason that your mother has cancer, the reason that your father died, is because you're worshiping these old ancestral worship idols. You have these stools, you have your own culture. You have to accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. And if you have anything else, then you're worshiping idol gods. They're throwing away. Y'all don't understand what I'm saying. Now I want you to understand what I'm saying. They'll go into a region that's richer in culture than anywhere in Europe. And they will gather up everything they have and take a bonfire and burn it so that there's no remnant or trace of its existence. They go further. Some of the brothers in Nigeria are like, well, better than burn it, give it to me at least. So they take it and they sell it. Now Europeans are coming into Nigeria. And for nothing, they're buying some of the richest history in West Africa. Some of the richest history in the world. And I'm going to show something this time, and I want you to make sure you stay on that thing this time, brother. I mean, you've been on it good, brother. Let's give Brother Talib a round of applause. He didn't come in with the job of sticking the microphone over top of the speaker we didn't have, but you know, somehow, and I know this is my belief, but I'm going to share it with you anyway, the white folk had some magical kind of way of trying to cause problems today. That's why we got started late. But here comes Brother Talib and Brother Kojo and Kush to save the day. So let's give this PKV family a hand. Because on my worst day, and I mean, we want to do it, we don't have to have the problems. I said there's some things that we got to see. Because what we're about to watch, brothers and sisters, I'm so glad for technology in this sense. I was saying before, sometimes it's hard to see what we're part of. I want everybody, but particularly my brothers and sisters who are Christians, or undecided, or still have some remnants of that you're dealing with. I want you to see, and it's amazing. You know, you would think that the things that happened during slavery, they didn't have tape recorders and stuff like that. So anytime we talk about what happened, we have to read the history and reenact it, but we don't have to do that. We have real case right now in front of our eyes, the history of taking black people from worshiping our own culture and our own people to worshiping whites, and literally seeing the exact impact that giving black people the worship of Jesus Christ, Serapis, the exact impact it has. I'm about to show you some, brothers and sisters, because I had a lot of stuff on Nigeria, but I said, you know what? I'll be talking myself to death. You need to see it for yourself. And I want you to just think about what you're about to see, because this is heavy, because we are now participating in assisting the European in spiritually enslaving and killing our people. And the white folks now are so brave, they're actually telling us what their intent is.
We're living through the greatest age of Christian conversion in history.
Some experts predict that in Africa alone, there will be 600 million Christians in just 25 years.
We have crossed the line. The hour of God has come for our continent. It's our duty now to proclaim Jesus.
The result is rising tensions that at times erupt into terrifying violence, where devastating battles between Muslims and Christians have left thousands dead on both sides.
What have we done? Is it bad for us to live here? Is this a religious war?
What lies ahead as the faithful engage in the battle for souls? No place better illustrates the battle for souls than Nigeria. The Ardills are the latest in a long line of white missionaries who, for more than 150 years, have come to Africa to spread the gospel. But while foreign missionaries started Christianity's growth in Africa, Africans themselves are driving its runaway expansion. Sunday morning in Lagos, the largest city in Nigeria, West Africa. By the gates of Canaan land, the traffic streams into the weekly services at Faith Tabernacle. Every Sunday, it's filled to capacity with 50,000 people. A testament to Christianity's runaway growth in West Africa. David Oyedepo leads services in what has become one of the 3 largest churches in the world. Oyedepo started with a small congregation in 1983, but books by America's megachurch evangelists inspired him to go further.
The truth is that the awakening here has been largely spurred by the leadership of the church from the West in form of pouring in of literature and other materials of which most of us are direct beneficiaries.
You could say that we're living through the greatest age of Christian conversion in history. In 1900, there were probably 10 million Christians in Africa, representing about 10% of the total population. Today, that figure is up to 360 million.
Mike O'Rear started Global Mapping International to give missionary agencies technological help in planning where and how to marshal their resources. Among their most popularly known maps are those showing the 1040 window.
The 1040 window goes from 10 degrees north latitude up to 40 degrees north, and from the west of Africa all the way across Asia. In that area of the world are the lowest percentage of Christians, the lowest number of churches of any other comparable area of the world.
The idea of the 1040 window has inspired thousands of missionary workers to go where only a handful had gone before.
The 1040 window, in my view, is a return to this theme, basically, of conquering the world for Christ, given the tools we now have at our disposal.
Timothy heads NEMA, an umbrella group for more than 4,000 Nigerian missionaries. But they're not just working in Nigeria.
This map represents the countries of Africa where Nigerians are serving as full-time missionaries. This is Morocco, this is Mali, Senegal, Nigeria Republic, Guinea is very Islamic. We have missionaries in Sudan, South Africa, we have Botswana, and Europe, and in Arabian Peninsula. We will not be able to mention specific country for security reasons.
Historically, there's really no reason why Islam and Christianity cannot get on together well. I'm troubled by the idea that there's a basic, irreconcilable clash between the two religions. Having said that, in the world over the last 30 years or so, they definitely do seem set, Islam and Christianity do seem set on a collision course. So a very worst case scenario would be of crusades and jihads with 21st century technology.
And let me say, it's bad news for anybody else who doesn't believe this. The church is going to grow in leaps and bounds. We're going to take more ground for Jesus. And at the end of the day, the kingdom of this world will become the kingdom of our God and His Christ. That's where we're going to rest our case.
I want you to do something for me, brothers and sisters. Particularly the brothers and sisters who, there's a lot of brothers and sisters out here who see what's going on with our people. And we talking to brothers and sisters trying to awaken, and sometimes we're abrasive or offensive. But I want anybody that's dealing with a brother or sister like that, that's too forceful and everything, I want you to see this. I want you to give them a break. Understand, when we see what's happening with our people, that sense of desperation sets in. And sometimes we go overboard trying to change people because we see what's happening, but we're trying to save our people. But I want us to look at this and understand, see, the European is getting much, much more sophisticated. He's still, you know, you still ain't take the cave out the European. You took him out of the cave, you can't take the cave out of him, but he's far more sophisticated. Yesterday, see, the things he wants out of Africa are very simple. He wants the resources, the diamonds, the gold, and that. He wants sexual access to our sons and our daughters. And he wants us dead. Those are pretty much the three things he wants out of Africa. And just use an example. I'm just using an example. Okay, they want sexual access to our sons and daughters. Yesterday, they said, well, how do we get that? Well, we had to go in with our guns and this, that, and the other. We kill a lot of people. We rape the women. We rape the boys. We do whatever we want to do. But the problem with that is it always results in black resistance. The men getting upset, the women getting upset, arming themselves and fighting us. And then, invariably, we end up having to try to find a way to make them more docile, and we end up giving them Christianity, and whenever we can turn them over to our religious belief system, then we got them. So now the European is more sophisticated. He said, why do I go through all of that? Since at the end of the day, I'm going to end up telling them to worship me, I don't have to go through all the bombing and murder. He comes in with the Bible, we worship him, and then he don't have to rape nobody. The father will walk with the daughter. Come on, baby. And, I mean, let's be honest. What wouldn't you give to God? So not only is the black man got his own women holding up pictures of his enemy to worship and see as God, but you wonder why black women, particularly on the African continent, not just America, but on the African continent, are running to white males. They running to God. And you say you're supposed to love God. Who wouldn't run to God? The European is far more sophisticated, so he wants to get us killing and murdering one another. He ain't got to go through all this fancy stuff. I want you to understand something about what we're looking at when we look at Nigeria. If this is not stopped, because see, Nigerians are some of the most intelligent, aggressive, courageous Africans on this planet. They really should be the ones that save Africa. But they, from what I know, contribute almost nothing to the cause of African liberation. When in fact, they have the most resources. They ain't scared of nobody. I mean, it's hard to find a scared Nigerian. And they just about the smartest person in the room. You sitting down at the math table, you know, I feel pretty smart, but at the end of the day, I'm putting my money on somebody from the Sudan or Nigeria if it's the math equation they got to do it, because they make up more doctors and attorneys or whatever else, high level. Why? Because they're intelligent. And they're not scared. But they're ravaging the continent. They're savagely ravaging. Not only are they murdering themselves, and I want you to understand where it's all headed, and I don't want to put all the blame on, I mean, the temptation is to be infuriated with Nigerians, and we should be. But we also got to be infuriated with ourselves, because if we had taken them something other than that, they would be pushing that. So we got to be mad at ourselves, because they wouldn't have been doing this right now. But it's not just Nigeria. It's happening all over the continent. Our people are being spiritually enslaved. What we just saw was exactly what we went through when we got to this continent. And that's how we are where we are today. We got to understand what the spiritual enslavement does. Because if we're going to be a free, proud, independent people, this is where we got to start. We got to know that we got our own relationship with God, and we don't need anybody else to tell us how to relate. And I want you to see the future of Nigeria. If this doesn't stop, not just Nigeria, but the whole continent, but if we use Nigeria as an example because we just looked at it, see, this is where Christianity has us. I mean, I want some of this arrogance to leave, particularly brothers and sisters that practice Christianity, because that's where 90% of our people in this country are probably consider themselves Christian. Who are you when your daughters are using each other as sexual partners? Your sons are sodomizing each other out of their minds. Your children disrespect adults, call them all kinds of names. You got more crime and murder in your community than anybody else. Who are you to talk about spreading spirituality to anybody on this planet? Take some math and science to them. Take building a dam. Take building some waterways so they can have potable water. But don't think, come on, look at the condition of your own children. Your sons don't even put their pants on their behinds. They walk around. I just drove here today. You know Brother Man? Brother Man was around Southeast. I'm like, what you doing around here, brother? I said, good to see you. I'm a plumber now. I said, well, plumbers wear their pants up on their waist. I had to tell a young man that this is African. Now, you expect that from a European, to pull his pants up to his waist. And he pulled them up and got halfway down the street, they went right back there. And we running around the planet talking about we know God. You see this? I don't even need to go into it. You know the devastation, the destruction. Let me tell you something. If it doesn't change in Nigeria, I'm telling you, in 10, 15 years, what we're going to have, it's going to be the most homosexual, violent, hideous place on this planet. It's going to be more poverty-stricken, more settled with warfare. It's going to be nobody, including black folk, are going to want to go anywhere near that place. Because once you begin to love your enemy, particularly an aggressive people, particularly a strong and aggressive people, when they love themselves strong, but when they hate themselves, it's a problem. And so we understand with this loving of our enemy, the devastation that it brought to us and what it's bringing to our enemies. I don't want to belabor the moment. You get the point.
Right, yes, sir.
But we want to get out of here. Before we do, we got to get some answers, because I think we see the problem. Do we see the problem, brothers and sisters? Is it clear? So now we got to talk about some solutions. But before we get to the solution to get out of here, I just want to do something real quick. Y'all got just a minute? Just a moment of your time. Said I ain't want to finish. I wanted to know how we did today. Did we reach into the African soul and spirit? And did we give a fair analysis of the world with proof and documentation to say this ain't nobody's opinion, to try to do what's good for our people? So you get a chance to be judge and jury today. I'm only the prosecutor. I can't make the final call. But I got to ask you the question. We put Serapis here on trial. We accused him of 3 counts of being a liar, thief, and a phony because it was a saw set in the roof. Check. Our African story, they got corrupted into this thing down here that they give us back in the white. And I asked you, the jury, on 3 counts of being a liar, thief, and a phony. How do you find Serapis the defendant? Guilty as charged. 1 count of providing false hope for African people. I didn't even get a chance to finish that. That's fine. Well, if it's that, let's keep going. 1 count of stealing immeasurable amounts of money from well-intentioned black people. Creflo dollar bill, y'all. You know you dealing with a jackleg when the fool named Dollar. Matter of fact, you can't even say his name without brothers pulling out money. Last week we was in here, I said, pass the dollar. The brother said, here you go, brother. I said, no, pass the dollar. He said, here you go. I said, no, the Reverend passed the dollar. Oh, I'm sorry, brother. Pass the dollar. The man named Pastor Dollar. Can you imagine how many billions of dollars from the beginning of the 1900s to now we poured into the church just for a return on investment that takes away everything from our people? 10,000 counts of softening African people up for European invasion. How did you do the jury find Serapis the defendant? Jomo Kenyatta said, look at him, just smiling. We ain't gonna talk about this. We done talked about it too much. I mean, white boy just smiling. Little brother like, this ain't right. But Jomo Kenyatta said, he said it, he was a Negro, he was an Uncle Tom, but I gotta give him credit for this statement because it's powerful. He said, when the white folks came, we had the land, they had the Bible. He said, white folks walked out, we had the Bible, they had the land. They bring this thing in first, and when they got you soft, man, then he comes with this. On 1 count of being a white sex offender. Guilty. Look, I did not draw this picture. I do not want nobody to wait and look. This picture came to me in the mail. And when I saw it, I said, man, let me throw this away. Because I said, wait a minute now. I'm supposed to be the one saying the Father, the Son, the Holy Ghost, the homosexual Trinity. I don't want no white help. They got 2 white boys. Even me, I'm sitting there going, well, I know what it is, but this can't be what it is. Who are these 2 white boys here? And why is this guy down here? And the Kush just said, where are the sisters and where are the women? Well, we don't want no sisters around there, but we know what's going on. I saw this picture and I saw the Pope. This is the Pope. I see he got a big old red hat. It looked like a little white boy saying, I'm not gonna me! No! Get your hands back! Brothers and sisters, on 1 billion counts of sexually abusing children. Wait a minute. Since 325 AD, we talking about close to 1,700 years. The reality is 1 billion is a laughable number. Over the course of 1700 years, they molested far more children than that, but I just wanted to use a number that was at least graspable. On 1 billion counts of sexually abusing children with the premier homosexual pedophilic institution on the planet. How do you, the defendant, how do you, the jury, find Serapis the defendant?
Hell.
Last charge. 1 count of being the god of the white race that justifies white enslavement, oppression, and brutality of black people. Brothers and sisters, we look at this boat here. It just ain't your average boat. See, one of the first slave ships they brought our people to these shores on, in chains and shackles. Our introduction to Serapis, they call it the good ship Jesus. They ain't call it the ship Jesus. They said the good ship Jesus. Because it's a good ship when his name is Jesus, because they got African captives on it. And we need a new ship. We need a ship, the Nat Turner ship. We need a Hannibal of Carthage ship. We need a different ship, because this ship is the God of the white race that justifies it. Uh-oh. Brother used language I can't use, but if you take the word ship, put with a P, and just play with your own imagination, you know what the brother said. It ain't a ship, it's you got the rest of it. We got children in here, now watch that now. On 1 count of being the God of the white race that justifies white enslavement, oppression, and brutality of black people, how do you, the African black jury with your African mind and your soul to save your own people and want to see us do better, how do you, the jury, find Serapis the defendant? Guilty as charged. All right. So he was found guilty on all counts. So now we got to say, we got to move to the next stage. The question is, what do we do? And we on our way out of here. Y'all all right? We got about 5 or 10 minutes to talk about the things we can do. We put this brother up here. This is Men Kibarach, Hootie Mays. They call him Tutmosis III. The meanest black man, the most violent black man in the history of the world. But he was violent for us. He's the one that said, all these invasions keep coming from the north and the east. I'm going to go up there and I'm just going to straighten it out once and for all. And since I ain't got enough resources to kill all of them, the ones I don't choose to kill, since they don't know how to act, they don't know right from wrong, I'm going to put them on their knees and I'm going to tell them about Amen. And I'm going to say, who do you love and who do you worship? And if they don't say Amen, I'm going to chop their heads off and look at the next one and say, who do you love? And they're going to say Amen. And I'm going to say, how do you treat people? They're going to say, with respect. And he indoctrinated them with the idea of morality and respect. That's why Europeans even have an idea about it. Because he told them, you better have an idea about it. And if you don't, I kill you. And he did a lot of killing to get it done. So you wonder today why you say all these gods, they say your prayers, and at the end of it you say, Amen. Amen. Why? Because that was what the Europeans and the whites and the Asiatics, even the Arabs, everybody was on their knees looking up at Men Kibarach, Hootie Mays, and the soldiers say, who do you love? And they say, Amen. If there ain't somebody say Amen, somebody's going to die. Because he said, I can't get rid of all of them, but maybe I can give them a little bit of decency so that maybe my people in the future, if these people ever come to power, there'll be something that they can hold on to. Let's show this brother some love. He was a marcher. And since we tackling a tough subject, I figure we need to march in the spirit of Men Kibarach to Hootie Mays. First thing we got to do, brothers and sisters, African nationalism, block progress, must take over Christianity as the dominant spiritual religious conviction in black people. Are we saying you got to call yourself a black nationalist? No, this is what we're saying. The most important thing to a black person, when we get up in the morning, the most important thing to us should be, my mother and my father were black.
That's right. Come on.
Our concept of brotherhood and blackness must be more important than anything else in our lives. The idea that we are brothers and sisters and we are one people with a common culture and common ideas and a common purpose and a common destiny, that's got to become more important than anything in the world. To show you how that will work, he said, what do we do about Nigeria? The Muslims and the Christians going to murder each other. Imagine if the most important thing to a Nigerian was not being Nigerian, but being an African. So the white folk gave some of them Christianity, they went with it, and some of them got Islam, and they tell the Christians, you got to go kill the Muslims. And they run over, we're going to kill all the Muslims. And they get over there and see the Muslims say, wait a minute, you black. And the Muslim said, yeah, what's wrong? Well, the Christian said, we got to kill the Muslim. They said, well, I'm Muslim. They said, well, I'm not killing nobody black. I mean, we black. So the white boy said, no, you got to kill him. They said, look, white boy, now we'll take your religion, whatever, but if taking your religion and belief system means I got to kill my brother or sister, you can take your religious, funny, fickle, kind of funny, honey hand God and take them back and put him where the sun don't shine. The Muslims in the Sudan would know that they were Africans, and when the Arabs said, look, go down and kill them because they really want the resources, but tell us that it's a Islamic jihad, they say, we fight for Allah. Till they get down the city, they got to fight somebody black and say, I ain't fighting him. And the Arabs say, no, you have to fight him. And say, no, you take your funny little turban head thing, and you take your Quran, and you go running back into the sand where you came from. Because nothing is more important to me than being black. And I'll never hurt my brother and sister because somebody else wants me to do it. And so we say, how do we get to that place where the essence of our people are that way? Let's talk about it. What do? We evangelize. I mean, think about it. White folks go over there, they got an idea. Love this guy. They know what the impact is going to be. Well, I put the Nation of Islam up here because Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad is one of the best examples. He said, okay, we can have a religion, but the religion is going to say the black man is God. The religion says the black woman is the mother of civilization, queen of planet Earth, goddess of the universe. Ain't nothing. They say heaven is at the feet of the black woman. That ain't nobody's Islam. That's Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, a black man who loves black people, saying this is black theology. We got to start, and I'm saying to my brothers and sisters out here, anybody who's a leader, you in the religious realm, it's no longer good enough to take the little white faggy boy picture and put a little brown on him and say, well, you know, Jesus was black. He had lamb like lamb's wool. Nah, it worked good. We appreciate it. Because now we got black people all around the country who don't got white angels. We got black angels on the wall. That's good. But let's talk about it for real. Our heroes don't look funny. Look at the next time you get a chance, look at Ida B. Wells Barnett. I want you to look at John Jacques Dessalines. I want you to take a look at Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Look at Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad. Our heroes look like they be heroes. You look at Harriet Tubman, you say, she was serious. That's what our heroes look like. So that's how our heroes need to look. We got to get off that basis. So I'm saying to you, we got to go evangelize blackness, black liberation, black independence, black freedom and independence. We got to do it. We got to do it. And you say, where do we start with that? I'm going to tell you, brothers and sisters, this is going to sound corny to some, but it's very real. This is how you know if you're on point or not. And I'm talking to my Christian brothers and every other brother. Look, when I go to the Indian, I say, who is God? He says, Buddha. And he starts going, I say, Buddha, what kind of word is that? He says, oh, it's in Indian. It's my language, Indian. And I go to the Arab, he got his, some sand cracker with his little, funny little big tall hat thing going on. And I say, excuse me, sir, who is God? He says, oh, you don't know. Allah, the beneficent, the merciful. And there's no God but he. And you say, man, he's convicted. He believes. That's beautiful. I said, what kind of name is Allah? Oh, I'm Arab. I speak Arabic. I go to the cracker. I say, cracker? I don't say cracker. Well, I say cracker, but I don't mean for you to say cracker because I don't want you to lose your job. And I'm going to say cracker because I ain't got no job. Cracker? Who's God, cracker? Oh, my friend, if you don't know about Jesus Christ, he's a good God. Jesus Christ is the Lord and Savior. Oh, Jesus. I say, Jesus Christ. That's English. Yes, I'm English. I speak good English. Go to the black man and woman. Say, who is God? And they'll tell you any of the above. So I'm saying to you, brothers and sisters, look, brother, I know you saying, yeah, I hear this God stuff, but look, my daughter was on the way from home today, and some older dude, made some comments to her. Look, Amin was a head cracker. You got to know your history. Ain't nothing wrong. Say, look, Amin, I got to talk to you for a minute. I'm about to go crack this man's head. I want to crack it real good. I want to crack it enough that he'll never, ever disrespect a young black girl like this and put her in that kind of fear. But I also want to make sure you help me. I don't want to kill him either because I don't think it's worth killing. He was just talking and everything. So, Amin, look, I'm going to go rough this man and help me find him quick. and I don't want no consequences behind it. I just want to come home and be with my family. I'm going to be there for you, bro.
That's right, brother.
Brother, you got the sister, y'all having a child, you got complications. You ain't never thought one time to say, look here, great mother had a rule. Look, you the great mother. And at this point, we done all that we know to do. And things just rough, you know. And I don't know if there's anything you can do, but, you know, we going to treat this child right. We going to raise him right. We really looking forward to this. And we need your help. You know, if there's anything you can do, she'd be good. She'd be glad to hear from you, brother, sister. She ain't heard from us in a long time. We done left our goddess principle all behind. That's why we call our women on our, we off our own base. I know it sounds, some people say that sounds foolish, but let me tell you something. If everybody else can see God in their own image, why can't the original people of planet Earth, the ones who laid the foundation, why would we even allow ourselves to call God by any other name? We're going to get right down to practical, because I know somewhere, well, I don't know this, that's not true. I hope somewhere that there's a preacher somewhere that says, you know, I'm watching this and I'm compelled to do the right thing. I can't leave my religion, though. I just can't do it. I've been in it too long, but what can I do to help? I tell you what you can do to help. You want to do something real? You got a 1,000-member church preacher? You really want to help black people? 50 members or whatever? I tell you what, on Sunday, when they come in, you done invested all this money and all this other stuff. Right. I want to see 1,000 destruction of black civilizations on the pews. And this Sunday, you're going to teach out of a different book. Right. I ain't telling you got to throw your Bible away right away. But I tell you what, in the beginning, your people will be a little reluctant. What is this? But once they start to, let me tell you, every page in this book deals with our people. It's relevant to history yesterday and relevant to our situation today. Preacher, your people will love you and they'll appreciate you because you'll be saving them. You'll be bringing them back to themselves. It'll get to the point eventually you'll be like, I don't get a chance to go back to the Bible because our people want to know who we are. And you can do that. So I say, I hope that there's a preacher out there or someone out there who recognize this is our book. This ain't our book. And one day, we'll have our own spiritual book. The Arab can bring himself together with one book called the Quran. He ain't got to read it, it just means something to him. The cracker can come with one called the Bible. What's the black book for liberation and independence of African people that brings us to our God? One day we'll have it, but until we do, we got one right here. Suffice to do the job. Stop spending our time. Some brothers say, I ain't going back to the church and everything. You know what? Good. Stop spending our time and money in an institution that don't give back. What I'm going to do on my time on Sunday? You know what black people love to do anyway? We love to get together. Every Sunday should be like a mini family reunion. Look, some of y'all sisters got these big houses. You love to entertain. You love to have everybody in the family over. But ain't nobody thought, you know what? On Sundays, we pick somebody's house in the bed every Sunday. We bring all the family over. Here's your opportunity, young person who needs some guidance. Now you can do it, all the families together. You can use, you know, the February, you can pop in PKV, Dr. John Henry Clark, have a discussion when it's over. You can watch the football game, all the stuff that we love to do as people. We can cook, we can eat, we can be around each other. We love doing it. We do it once every year or so. Why shouldn't we do it every Sunday? And we love each other. And that's the opportunity to say, you know what? On a regular basis, once every month, once every 3 months, or however long, we sit down with the youth and we say, is anybody putting their hands on you? Is anybody in the family putting their hands on you? Because if it is, you need to tell us. You're not snitching on them, you preventing it from happening to somebody else. We can start fixing the problems in our family and in our home because we together with people who care about our own interests and not stuck on loving somebody else. We can do this. Money. We put billions of dollars in there. We got a young, you know what we say? This young brother, he's a computer. He puts stuff all together. We say, well, that boy is good. I really hope, that something go good for him. What? We get together and say, look, we put about $2,500 a month in the church. You know what? Young man, that dead-end pizza job you working, you done with that right now. We giving you a year. We're going to pay your bills. We're going to pay your comments. Your job is 2 things. 1, go out and build this business. We know you can do it because you're great at what you do. And you're driven to do it. And secondly, you don't owe nobody in this family nothing, except once you get on your feet and get things going, you come back and put it into the pot so the next entrepreneurial spirit in the family can go out there and do it. Can you imagine how many entrepreneurs? Sisters that do the locks and do it, and she's great. That customer service, why ain't we leasing a spot for her and get her on her feet? We got the money to do it. We throwing it away. We at the end now. Y'all all right? Y'all about to eat. Don't be looking, some of y'all looking at the watches and stuff like this. I get it. You ready to get out of here? Okay. I'm done anyway, so we good. Now, out of all the other ones I've been able to give an answer, I want to say before I talk about this, I really don't have, quote unquote, the answer to how exactly we do this. But it's something that Dr. Chancellor Williams talked about, and the reality of it is, if you throw the whole rest of this lecture away, this really is the most important thing for the survival of black people. This is my first trip to Senegal. Black trip is beautiful people. We had a wonderful time. This is Gorée Island. And we say here, develop a spiritual understanding of whites that identifies them as our traditional and everlasting enemies. I'm gonna tell you something, brothers and sisters. This is what they call the door of no return. You know, Gorée Island may be the most sacred place for black suffering on this planet. You know, it's the westernmost coast of Africa in Dakar, Senegal. So not only were brothers and sisters taken to Senegal and through Gorée Island into enslavement here, but many ships went from wherever they were, and then those ships went to Gorée Island and docked and went out. So probably more of our people went through Gorée Island than any other slave dungeon. So I said it may be the most sacred place. And I thought I had done well, you know, because I thought I was going to break down. And we went through the slave castle, the slave dungeon, I'm sorry. And it's my first trip to Africa. I was a young man, you know, and I was walking around, and I did well. Everything was fine. People were crying out, you all right, brother, sister, everything okay? And we walked into this room. And I saw this picture. There's a huge billboard hanging from the ceiling. And I froze, and I developed a real good relationship with the Senegalese brothers who are tour guides. And I said, brother, I said, what does that say? And he said something, I don't remember what he said, but something, through it all, we must all come together and forgive the past and be one big family or something. And I'm not lying to you. The tears started shooting out of my eyes. I wasn't the kind of crying like when you sit there, you know, you sad. It wasn't that. It was like I was standing up straight, but the tears were shooting out of my eyes. So I ran to the other room, and I said, ain't nobody gonna see me crying. And I hit my knees. As soon as I got to the other room, I was broke. And then the brothers come running in. What's wrong, brother? I said, get out of here, man, because I don't want nobody to see me like this. So they forced me to get up really before I'm ready. And I saw the light. I said, we are going to die as a race of people. I said, and if we continue in this way, we deserve to die. Now, don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying that we supposed to die, but I'm saying, if in the most sacred place of the suffering of our people, in the place, I mean, there's so many beautiful things. Think about it. They call it the door of no return. Yet, we've returned. So we can say the big lie. They said it was the door of no return, but our brothers and sisters that returned home. And brothers and sisters can be holding hands, and we walk in the room, we fall apart. We go, oh man, that's what I'm talking about. But in a place of our greatest suffering, we're such a jelly-spined people. I don't care if the white boy made the picture, and I don't care who made it. The fact that we would disrespect our own race, our own people, the fact that even us would go there and allow it to happen. A people like that deserve to die. When you tell your enemy it's okay to kill my babies, why, if that is what is in his character, why shouldn't he do it? That's us. This ain't nobody else. We can blame those stuff that the white folks do, but what we do, what we allow, we have to take full responsibility. And I said, you know what? I said, I really realized at that point in time, I said, dang, if I'm here, maybe we are going to lose. I said, but I don't know that. I know if this mindset permits and continues, we will. I said, but if I die, there going to be a lot of lines. I might not make it in all those lines, I'm going to tell you now. But there's one line I'm going to try to sneak to. The line where the ancestors say, who was it that knew that white folks were going to destroy the people and told their people to try to prepare them for that? I'm going to be in that line because I know I can walk through that line clean. That's right. I know that as one who sees the suffering of my people as sacred and sees the end, I see the end. I'm not going to be afraid to tell you the truth because it's going to make people not like me. I'm not going to be afraid to tell you the truth because somebody might hate me or somebody might hurt me. They already hurt me. When they took the first African off those shores, they hurt me. What am I afraid of? I'm going to tell you you got an enemy. And if it's too much for you, then maybe it'll break your back. But you know what? you already know it anyway. It just ain't enough of us willing to stand on solid ground. I don't work for the white boy. I can talk like this. They are our enemies, brothers and sisters. Now, I said all that, and I meant every word of it. But if you ask me, well, how exactly do we do it? I go back to what I said in the beginning. I really don't know. I know the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said the white man is the devil. I know that the Masi said thriving. The Masi kingdom was thriving during the slave trade. They said when the first white man enters our land, our nation will die. Every black person in the Masi land was prepared for warfare. Germans went up to the border, ready to go to war, and the Masi was waiting like, come so we can wipe all of y'all out. They ain't never seen a white face, but they were prepared because they had looked at what happened to all Africans in history. And it wasn't until they let their children out of Masi land, they start going, meeting Europeans. No, our people don't know what's right. The Europeans went in there, and y'all know the rest. I'm saying that to say, I don't know what the answer is, but I know that in the minds of African people throughout the world, when we see Europeans, somehow we got to make it so this is what our people see. Not their friends, not somebody with enlightenment, but this is what we see. I'm saying, brother, I'm talking to my brothers. I know my sisters messed up, but my brothers are leading the way in this charge. I got to talk to y'all. When you see this little white whore,
yes, sir. Talk about that.
You're not seeing some sexual gratification. You're not seeing no porcelain white queen. You seeing this little whore that sits there and says, Daddy, Daddy, she's smiling. Daddy, do I ever get to hang a nigger? And Daddy says, no, baby, we hang the niggers. Oh, Daddy, but you can be here, little baby girl. This is what they think of us. And we forget it. And every time we forget it, we get cracked right in the head. And we go back 5 or 6 steps in the wrong direction. How do we get this through our people's heads? How do we do it? Hey, that's something for all of us to figure out. But brothers and sisters, we're going to end it here. This is the last slide. I'm saying, more important than anything I said today, as a race of people, if we don't get this understanding through our head, we will surely die. The white race, they are not our friends, and they do not intend to help us get out of this condition. We are going to have to rely on our brothers and sisters with black skin and brown skin, Africans, those who have African descendants of African people. If they're in Brazil, America, or anywhere else on the planet, that is who is going to save African people, or we're not going to get saved. And every time you look at the European, every time you see somebody white, even if you smile and pretend like they're your friend, at the end of the day, you have to know this is who they are. This is when you look at somebody and say, this is our brother. I think it was Willie Brown, right? Kush, is this Willie Brown? Willie Brown. They said, listen to his crime. Why was he burned at the stake? Did he rape somebody? Did he murder somebody? Did he steal from somebody's store? They said he was walking down the street and he looked across the street and saw a white female. And he looked at her too long. It was a law called reckless eyeballing. He recklessly eyeballed her, and so he burns to death. And I don't, like I said, I don't know the answer, but I know, you look at somebody like that, you know how we do, right? We look at somebody like that and we go, no God. It's better to do that. So I'm going to leave it right there, brothers and sisters. I ain't got much more to say, but I hope you gained something from this. I hope you weren't offended. But even if you were, I hope you walk away with the knowledge and understanding that as a race of people, it's going to be up to us to change our people. And part of this change and forward progress is the spiritual liberation of the mind of our people. Let's capture our people's imagination. Let's look our enemies in the eye and say, we ain't going out like the Native Americans who didn't figure out who you was until it was too late. We ain't going out like our Tasmanian brothers and sisters who didn't get a chance to recognize you and got wiped out. We ain't going out like that. However we go, anything, at the very least, it'll be a thriller. Our God commands growth and prosperity to African people. Peace to all God's beings and death to all enemies of God. Thank you, brothers and sisters.
I said his skin was brown. This white Jesus is keeping us down. Head like lambs, wool and feet like burnt grass. So tell me how long white Jesus gon' last. Your church's been lying and I don't buy it. If his color didn't matter, the Bible wouldn't describe him. If Jesus was white, then George Washington was black. But we both know that's wrong, so let's deal with the facts. If you you believe in God's spirit and your scripture was God-given, you best believe that God's son had dark pigment. And if you think that I'm crazy, well listen, y'all ignorant. I'm the original man made in God's image. The spirit inside you, let it guide you. But worshiping another image is suicidal. I know you pray to Jesus when times is hard, and subconsciously put white people closer to God. My mouth spits sparks every time I talk. Got my beat that beacon the light to get inside of the dark, the black. I said his skin was brown, this white Jesus is keeping us down. I better get my gun, my own people wanna kill me now. The black, the black. Yeah, listen Kanye, I admired your song, but you had this one line that I thought was wrong. You don't wanna argue about his facial features, but if you're gonna speak it, then you gotta teach it. The Bible you believe in describes him thoroughly. The white Jesus you worship is the man that murdered me, lynched in the name of that white man Christ. But ask him and tell what that white man like. You probably not feeling it, I know that you hearing it. Before that white Jesus we were building the pyramid. Worshiping the black God gives power to you, cause we had our own Jesus and his name was Farouk, huh? It didn't take away from your spins, but didn't take away from your ends. But now I think it's time to begin to teach the truth that you speak about. Next time I'm in the club, everybody screaming black. I said his skin was brown, this white Jesus is keeping us down. I better get my gun, my own people wanna kill me now. Black.